For decades, we've been sold a lie about our ancestors. Picture the typical caveman, a grunting, club-wielding brute who barely scraped by in a harsh world, living hand-to-mouth with no culture, no art, no sophistication. This image is completely wrong. What archaeologists have been quietly uncovering over the past few decades would shock you to your core. Our Stone Age ancestors weren't primitive savages struggling to survive. They were brilliant innovators, skilled surgeons, master engineers, and sophisticated artists whose achievements often surpassed those of later civilizations. They performed complex brain surgery with success rates that rival modern medicine. They created art so advanced that Picasso declared we'd learned nothing in 12,000 years. Prepare to have your assumptions shattered. Here are the shocking facts that prove our Stone Age ancestors were far more advanced than we ever imagined. 1. The dawn of technology predates humanity itself. The scorching heat of Kenya's Lake Turkana was unbearable, but the archaeological team pressed on. Their brushes moved carefully through ancient sediment, uncovering what would become one of the most revolutionary discoveries in human history. As the dust cleared, stone tools emerged from layers dating back 33 million years. The implications hit like a thunderbolt. These weren't crude accidents of nature. The tools showed deliberate flaking patterns, purposeful design, sophisticated manufacturing techniques. But here's the shocking part. They predated the oldest confirmed Homo specimens by almost 1 million years. This discovery meant that Australopithecus, our distant ancestor with a brain 1/3 the size of modern humans, possessed cognitive abilities we never imagined possible. Toolmaking, once considered the exclusive hallmark of human intelligence, had originated with species we dismissed as primitive. The carefully crafted implements required planning, spatial reasoning, and fine motor control. Each tool represented conscious decisions about stone selection, striking angles, and intended function. This single discovery pushed back the dawn of the Paleolithic by 700,000 years, forcing scientists to completely reconsider human evolution. The question that haunts researchers today: if our primitive ancestors could create sophisticated tools, what other capabilities did they possess that we've overlooked? 2. Microscopic marvels that surpassed medieval weapons. Deep in European archaeological sites, researchers made a discovery that would shatter every stereotype about primitive Stone Age technology. Scattered among the ancient debris were tiny stone blades, microliths measuring less than an inch long. At first glance, they seemed insignificant, but detailed analysis revealed engineering sophistication that wouldn't be matched for thousands of years. These weren't crude stone chips. They were precision instruments featuring composite designs with replaceable components, held together by plant-based adhesives that demonstrated advanced chemistry knowledge. Each microlith incorporated aerodynamic principles, creating projectiles more effective than medieval arrows. The manufacturing process demanded exceptional skill. Artisans understood stress distribution, wind resistance, and optimal penetration angles. They developed standardized production methods, quality control systems, and modular designs that allowed damaged components to be replaced without discarding entire tools. When assembled into composite weapons, these microscopic components created hunting implements that surpassed anything medieval Europe could produce. Archaeological experiments have proven these tiny blades could penetrate armor that stopped conventional arrows. The precision required to craft such tools demanded not only exceptional manual dexterity, but also sophisticated understanding of physics and material science. Our Stone Age ancestors possessed engineering minds that rival modern weapon designers. 3. The evolution of precision over 26 million years. Imagine tracking a single technological thread across 26 million years of human history. What emerges is a pattern so remarkable, so uniquely human, that it separates us from every other species on Earth. While other animals continued using the same crude implements for millions of years, chimps still use the same stick tools their ancestors did. Humans embarked on an extraordinary journey of relentless technological refinement. This wasn't random improvement. It was systematic, purposeful miniaturization that occurred in 3 distinct waves, each triggered by major environmental challenges. As ice ages came and went, as climates shifted and resources became scarce, humans responded not by adapting their bodies like other species, but by perfecting their tools. Each generation inherited knowledge from predecessors and improved upon it, creating an unbroken chain of innovation. Archaeological evidence shows this precision trend wasn't universal among early hominins. Robust Australopithecines continued making the same large, crude tools for millions of years. Only our direct ancestors pursued this path of technological evolution. The drive toward ever greater precision and efficiency represents perhaps the most fundamental characteristic separating us from all other species. This technological DNA, embedded 26 million years ago, would eventually lead to smartphones, space exploration, and quantum computers. 4. The birth of engineering 90,000 years ago. Picture workshops that existed long before the pyramids were even imagined. In caves across Africa and Europe, 90,000 years ago, early humans were creating technological marvels that would impress modern engineers. These weren't simple stone-on-stick combinations that populate museum displays. They were sophisticated, multi-material constructions requiring understanding of principles we don't teach until advanced engineering courses today. Each composite tool represented a masterclass in material science. Stone provided the cutting edge, selected for hardness and flaking properties. Hardwood offered flexibility and shock absorption. Bone added durability and precise weight distribution. Plant-based adhesives created molecular bonds that could withstand tremendous stress. Creating these implements required advanced planning that would challenge modern project managers. Artisans needed to gather materials from different geographic locations, understand their individual properties, and envision how they would function together under stress. The adhesives alone represented remarkable chemistry knowledge. Specific plants had to be harvested at optimal times, processed using exact heating temperatures, and combined in precise ratios to achieve proper bonding strength. Archaeological experiments attempting to recreate these tools have highlighted the incredible skill required. Modern engineers using Stone Age materials struggle to match the quality and durability our ancestors achieved routinely. 5. The world's first sustainable technology. Long before Greta Thunberg or environmental movements, Mesolithic peoples invented something revolutionary. The world's first truly sustainable technology. In workshops scattered across post-Ice Age Europe, these innovative ancestors created composite tools with a feature that modern sustainability experts would applaud: complete modularity. When one component broke or dulled, it could be replaced without discarding the entire implement. This wasn't just practical efficiency. It represented a fundamental shift in thinking about resource use and waste reduction that wouldn't reappear for 10,000 years. Each hafted tool consisted of a carefully crafted handle designed to last decades, paired with replaceable stone components that could be swapped out as needed. A single tool handle might serve a hunter throughout his entire lifetime, paired with dozens of different blades for various tasks. Archaeological sites reveal organized maintenance systems, caches of replacement blades stored near tool handles, evidence of repair workshops, and standardized component sizes that ensured interchangeability across different regions. The environmental implications were profound. By creating reparable rather than disposable tools, Mesolithic peoples demonstrated ecological consciousness that modern societies are still struggling to achieve. This ancient circular economy enabled sustainable resource use across millennia, proving our ancestors understood environmental stewardship long before it became a buzzword. 6. Stone Age mass production rivals industrial standards. In the workshops of Mesolithic Europe, something extraordinary was happening that defied everything we thought we knew about prehistoric capabilities. Archaeological analysis of tool assemblages reveals production standards that rival modern manufacturing. coefficient of variation values below 20%, standardized specifications across hundreds of miles, quality control measures that ensured interchangeable components. This level of consistency wasn't accidental. It required sophisticated understanding of materials, standardized processes, and systematic quality control that we associate with modern factories. Each microlith was crafted to precise specifications. Variations were so minimal they suggest the use of templates, measuring systems, and standardized training protocols. Archaeological experiments attempting to replicate this consistency have proven extremely challenging, even with modern tools and knowledge. The discovery of specialized napping areas tells an incredible story. Organized waste disposal systems. Raw material preparation zonas. Specialized tool production areas. Workshop organization comparable to modern assembly lines. This prehistoric mass production system supported extensive trade networks spanning continents. Standardized tools from Scottish workshops have been found in Spanish archaeological sites. The implications are staggering. These Stone Age artisans weren't randomly chipping stones, but following exact protocols that ensured consistent quality across different workshops and regions. This industrial-level thinking existed 10,000 years before the Industrial Revolution, proving that sophisticated manufacturing concepts are far older than we imagined. 7. The world's first industrial complex. Hidden in the rugged mountains of Armenia lies evidence that rewrites the history of industrial civilization. Mount Artini wasn't just a quarry. It was humanity's earliest industrial operation, a Paleolithic arms factory that operated continuously for an astounding 14 million years. The scale defies comprehension. Millions of obsidian tools manufactured and distributed across networks stretching 1,600 miles from Ukraine to the Aegean Sea. Specialized workshops, organized waste disposal systems, quality control measures that ensured product standardization across 3 continents. This wasn't seasonal production by small bands of hunter-gatherers. This was year-round manufacturing that supplied tools to communities across vast distances without modern transportation. The logistics alone required sophisticated planning that would challenge modern supply chain managers. Raw material extraction from volcanic sources. Tool production using specialized techniques. Quality control ensuring consistent standards. Packaging and distribution across treacherous terrain. Archaeological surveys reveal the complexity. Different areas of the complex dedicated to different production stages. Specialized napping floors. Tool finishing areas. Storage facilities. Evidence of worker specialization and skill development. The standardization of products suggests established trade relationships that lasted millennia. Quality control measures that ensured customer satisfaction across vast distances. This industrial complex predates known civilizations by hundreds of thousands of years, proving that large-scale organized production and continental trade networks existed far earlier than anyone imagined. 8. Stone Age surgery that defied medical history. In the dense rainforests of Borneo, archaeologists made a discovery that would revolutionize our understanding of prehistoric medicine. As they carefully excavated a 31,000-year-old burial site, skeletal remains emerged that told an extraordinary story. The individual's left foot and lower leg had been cleanly amputated, but this wasn't the result of an accident or predator attack. It was deliberate surgery performed with precision that rivals modern operating rooms. What made this discovery truly shocking was the evidence that the patient had survived for years after the operation, living a full life in a hunter-gatherer society where physical mobility meant survival. The bone showed clear signs of healing with no evidence of infection or complications. The amputation site was perfectly smooth, indicating surgical skill that required intimate knowledge of anatomy. This operation demanded capabilities that shouldn't have existed for millennia. Detailed understanding of blood flow and nerve pathways. Surgical instruments sharp enough for precise cutting. Antiseptic techniques to prevent deadly infection. Sophisticated aftercare, including wound management and rehabilitation. Pain management during the procedure would have required knowledge of anesthetic plants and dosage calculations. The implications are staggering. 31,000 years ago, before agriculture, before cities, before written language, humans possessed medical knowledge that rivals modern surgical understanding. This single discovery proves prehistoric peoples possessed medical expertise that wouldn't be matched again until modern times. 9. Neanderthal pharmacists knew their medicine. In the limestone caves of Spain, scientists made a discovery that shattered every stereotype about Neanderthal intelligence. Using cutting-edge techniques to analyze ancient dental plaque, researchers uncovered a pharmaceutical treasure trove in the teeth of a Neanderthal woman suffering from severe tooth abscess. Her self-medication regimen would impress modern pharmacists. Yarrow for pain relief and wound healing. Chamomile for its powerful anti-inflammatory properties. Poplar bark containing salicylic acid, the active ingredient in aspirin. But the most shocking discovery came next. Her dental plaque also contained penicillium mold, the source of penicillin, suggesting she understood antibiotic properties tens of thousands of years before Alexander Fleming's accidental discovery in 1928. This wasn't random plant consumption. This was deliberate pharmaceutical intervention requiring extensive knowledge that modern medical students spend years learning. The woman had systematically sought out specific plants with known medicinal properties. She consumed them in combinations that maximized therapeutic effects while minimizing side effects. The sophistication suggests established medical traditions passed down through generations. Knowledge of plant pharmacology. Understanding of drug interactions. Dosage calculations based on body weight and symptom severity. This discovery proves Neanderthals possessed sophisticated medical knowledge, maintained extensive pharmacological libraries, and practiced evidence-based medicine that demonstrates cognitive abilities far beyond primitive stereotypes. 10. Ancient brain surgery with modern success rates. Across burial sites in ancient Europe, archaeologists discovered evidence of medical procedures so advanced they challenged everything we thought we knew about prehistoric capabilities. Skulls dating back to 5000 BCE bear unmistakable signs of trepanation, deliberate surgical drilling of holes in the skull. But here's what's truly shocking: the success rates. Patients not only survived these procedures, but thrived for years afterward. Some individuals underwent multiple surgeries, their skulls showing several perfectly healed holes indicating repeated successful operations. This wasn't crude butchery. This was precision neurosurgery requiring capabilities that shouldn't have existed for millennia. The procedures were performed with sophisticated stone tools that created clean, precise openings without damaging underlying brain tissue. The surgical sites show evidence of careful planning, optimal positioning to avoid critical blood vessels and brain regions. Archaeological analysis reveals post-operative bone regrowth patterns indicating patients survived long enough for complete healing. This suggests advanced medical care, including infection prevention, pain management, and nutritional support during recovery. The success rates appear comparable to modern trepanation procedures performed in sterile operating rooms with advanced instruments. These ancient surgeons possessed neuroanatomical understanding rivaling modern neurosurgeons. They understood intracranial pressure, brain anatomy, and surgical techniques that required generations of accumulated knowledge. The procedures were performed across different cultures and continents, indicating widespread medical knowledge and successful training systems for complex surgical techniques. 11. Paleolithic dentistry that preceded modern techniques. In the mountains of northern Italy, archaeologists uncovered evidence that would revolutionize our understanding of prehistoric medicine. Carefully preserved teeth from 13,000 years ago showed unmistakable signs of deliberate dental intervention that predated modern dentistry by millennia. Precisely drilled holes filled with sophisticated composite materials. But this wasn't accidental damage. This was purposeful dental treatment requiring understanding that modern dental students spend years learning. The drilling was performed with remarkable precision using Stone Age tools. Perfectly round holes penetrated exactly to optimal depth without damaging surrounding tissue or nerve chambers. The filling materials were carefully engineered for specific properties. Bitumen provided waterproofing and antiseptic qualities that prevented bacterial infection. Hair offered structural reinforcement that distributed chewing forces. Plant fibers created flexibility that prevented crack propagation under stress. Archaeological experiments attempting to replicate these procedures using Stone Age tools have proven extremely difficult, highlighting the exceptional skill required. The patients showed evidence of healed tissue around the fillings, proving successful treatment and long-term survival without complications. This organized dental medicine demonstrates sophisticated understanding of oral anatomy, pain management techniques, and restorative material science. The procedures required specialized tools, advanced planning, and post-operative care that indicates established medical traditions spanning generations. This prehistoric dentistry proves our ancestors possessed medical knowledge and surgical skills that challenge every assumption about prehistoric limitations. 12. Neanderthal artists rewrote human history. Deep in the caves of Spain, researchers made a discovery that sent shockwaves through the archaeological community and rewrote the story of human artistic achievement. Using cutting-edge uranium-thorium dating techniques, they proved something that shouldn't have been possible. Elaborate cave paintings, hand stencils, geometric patterns, abstract symbols were created 64,000 years ago, a full 20,000 years before modern humans arrived in Europe. This meant Neanderthals, not Homo sapiens, were Europe's first artists. The implications shattered decades of scientific assumptions. These paintings required symbolic thinking, abstract reasoning, and language capabilities that scientists had insisted were unique to modern humans. The cave art wasn't crude or accidental. It was sophisticated and purposeful, demonstrating complex cognitive abilities including planning, aesthetic sense, and cultural transmission across generations. The pigments were carefully prepared using advanced techniques requiring knowledge of chemistry and material science. Color mixing, binding agents, preservation methods that kept the art vibrant for millennia. The placement deep within caves suggests ritualistic or ceremonial purposes, indicating complex spiritual practices and cultural traditions. This discovery forced a complete reevaluation of Neanderthal intelligence, proving they possessed the same cognitive abilities we pride ourselves on as defining human characteristics. 13. The world's first universal language. Across the caves of Ice Age Europe, researcher Genevieve von Petzinger made a discovery that suggests our ancestors developed humanity's first universal communication system. After painstakingly cataloging thousands of cave paintings across 30,000 years, she found something extraordinary. Only 32 geometric symbols were used across all European cave art. Dots, lines, triangles, spirals, and other basic shapes appeared with remarkable consistency across vast distances and time periods. But here's the shocking part. 2/3 of these symbols were already in use when modern humans first arrived in Europe. This means they brought this symbolic system with them from Africa. This wasn't random artistic expression. This was a structured symbolic language that transcended cultural and geographical boundaries, like a prehistoric internet. The symbols appear in specific combinations and patterns, suggesting grammatical rules and meaningful communication. Some symbols cluster near animal paintings. Others mark cave entrances or deep chambers, indicating specialized meanings and purposes. Archaeological evidence suggests these symbols were taught and transmitted across generations, maintaining consistency over millennia spanning dozens of cultures. This universal symbol system may represent humanity's earliest attempt at written communication, predating known writing systems by tens of thousands of years, and proving our ancestors possessed cognitive sophistication to develop complex symbolic languages. 14. Renaissance art techniques from the Ice Age. In the depths of Lascaux Cave, Pablo Picasso encountered something that shook him to his core and led him to declare, "We have learned nothing in 12,000 years." The famous Crossed Bison painting displayed three-dimensional artistic techniques that had supposedly been lost with the Magdalenian culture and wouldn't reappear until the Italian Renaissance. These Paleolithic artists understood perspective, depth, and proportion with sophistication that medieval European art couldn't match. The bison are positioned at precise angles, creating illusions of movement and depth. The artists used natural cave wall contours to enhance three-dimensional effects that seemed to make animals breathe in flickering torchlight. The shading techniques employed gradations of color that wouldn't be seen again for millennia. The positioning creates narrative flow, telling complex stories across cave walls. These weren't primitive scratches on stone. They were masterful artistic compositions demonstrating aesthetic sensibilities and technical skills rivaling the greatest Renaissance masters. The artists used advanced pigment preparation techniques, creating colors that remained vivid for 17,000 years. They understood anatomy with precision, suggesting careful study of animal physiology and movement patterns. The sophisticated composition and technical execution prove that artistic genius flourished in Ice Age minds, possessing creative abilities that challenge every assumption about prehistoric limitations. 15. The world's oldest narrative art emerges from Indonesia. In the limestone caves of Sulawesi, Indonesia, archaeologists made a discovery that revolutionized our understanding of human storytelling and artistic expression. Using revolutionary laser ablation, uranium series dating, they determined that cave paintings showing humans and pigs in complex hunting scenes were created 51,200 years ago. This makes them the world's oldest known narrative art. The discovery proves that sophisticated artistic expression and complex storytelling didn't originate in Europe, as previously believed, but emerged simultaneously across the globe, wherever modern humans settled. The Indonesian paintings display remarkable sophistication that rivals any prehistoric art. Human figures with clearly defined body proportions interact with detailed animal representations in scenes that tell complete stories. The artists understood narrative structure, creating visual stories with beginning, middle, and conclusion that communicate complex ideas across tens of thousands of years. The pigment preparation required advanced chemistry knowledge, while strategic placement suggests ritualistic or educational purposes, indicating sophisticated cultural practices. This discovery fundamentally challenges Eurocentric assumptions about artistic development and proves that symbolic thinking, abstract reasoning, and narrative storytelling were universal human capabilities that emerged independently across continents. The complex compositions demonstrate planning, aesthetic sensibilities, and cultural sophistication that existed long before agriculture, cities, or written language. 16. Cave art that predicted Renaissance techniques. Deep within Chauvet Cave in France, archaeologists discovered artistic achievements that shouldn't have existed for another 30,000 years. The cave paintings display perspective, shading, and animation techniques that European art historians insist weren't developed until the Renaissance. But here they were, created by Ice Age artists who supposedly knew nothing about advanced artistic techniques. These Paleolithic artists used natural cave wall contours to create three-dimensional effects that make animals appear to move and breathe in flickering torchlight. The sophisticated shading creates depth and volume, using gradations of pigment to achieve realistic modeling. Most remarkably, some panels show the same animals in multiple positions, creating primitive animation that suggests movement, a technique not formally developed until modern cinema. The artists understood light and shadow, using overlapping figures to suggest depth and distance. They created complex compositions that guide the viewers through narrative sequences spanning entire cave chambers. The pigment preparation involved advanced chemistry, creating colors that have remained vivid for over 30,000 years through sophisticated binding agents and preservation techniques. The sophistication suggests these caves served as prehistoric theaters where stories were told using animated images and firelight effects. This artistic achievement proves human creativity reached peaks during the Ice Age that wouldn't be matched again for millennia. 17. Ireland's 5,000-year-old astronomical computer. On the rolling hills of Ireland's Boyne Valley stands Newgrange, a Neolithic monument that functioned as something far more sophisticated than a simple tomb. This 5,000-year-old structure operated as a precise astronomical computer. On December 21st each year, sunlight penetrates the monument's carefully designed entrance passage and illuminates the central chamber for exactly 17 minutes, creating a spectacular light show that has continued uninterrupted for 5 millennia. But this wasn't mere coincidence. Every aspect of Newgrange's construction was precisely calculated to achieve this effect with accuracy that rivals modern instruments. The entrance passage slopes at exactly the right angle. The roof box is positioned with millimeter precision. The entire structure captures solstice sunrise even during cloudy weather. The builders understood complex astronomical calculations, seasonal variations, and architectural engineering principles that wouldn't be formally developed for thousands of years. Archaeological analysis reveals the monument could track not just solar movements, but also lunar cycles and possibly planetary motions through sophisticated alignment systems. The precision required for this construction demanded surveying techniques, mathematical understanding, and organized labor forces that challenges assumptions about Neolithic capabilities. This astronomical computer proves Irish builders possessed scientific knowledge and engineering skills that rival modern achievements. 18. Africa's hidden astronomical observatory predates Stonehenge. Hidden in Egypt's Sahara Desert, thousands of miles from Europe's famous stone circles, lies humanity's oldest known astronomical observatory. Nabta Playa, dating to 6,500 to 6,000 years ago, contains megalithic structures precisely aligned with celestial events that predate Stonehenge by over 1,000 years. This sophisticated complex proves advanced astronomical knowledge didn't originate in Europe, but flourished in Africa millennia before European monuments were conceived. The stone circles and alignments track stellar positions, seasonal changes, and celestial cycles with mathematical precision that require generations of careful observation and calculation. The builders understood precession, the slow wobble of Earth's axis that changes stellar positions over thousands of years, and incorporated these long-term changes into their monument's design. Archaeological evidence suggests the site served multiple functions: astronomical observatory, ceremonial center, and seasonal gathering place for nomadic peoples who maintained sophisticated knowledge systems across vast distances. The precision of alignments required coordinated effort from skilled astronomers, engineers, and stone workers who possessed mathematical understanding comparable to later civilizations. This discovery proves complex astronomical knowledge, monumental architecture, and organized societies existed in Africa thousands of years before similar developments in Europe, fundamentally challenging assumptions about civilization's geographic origins. 19. Neolithic Venus tracking technology. Above the entrance to Newgrange, 8 mysterious X marks carved into the monument's roof box may represent one of humanity's earliest attempts at planetary astronomy. These enigmatic symbols could correspond to Venus's 8-year cycle, indicating Neolithic astronomers were tracking not just solar and lunar movements, but also the complex dance of planets across the sky. Venus follows a precise pattern, returning to the same position relative to Earth every 8 years, creating a cycle that ancient astronomers worldwide found significant enough to incorporate into monuments and calendars. If this interpretation is correct, it means Irish Neolithic peoples possessed astronomical knowledge that wouldn't be formally documented until classical antiquity. Tracking Venus requires decades of careful observation, mathematical calculation, and record-keeping across generations, capabilities suggesting sophisticated intellectual traditions and educational systems. The Venus cycle's integration into Newgrange's design would have required coordinating solar solstice alignments with planetary movements, demonstrating astronomical sophistication that rivals later civilizations. Archaeological analysis of other Neolithic sites reveals similar attention to planetary movements, suggesting this knowledge was widespread rather than isolated to single locations. This prehistoric astronomy proves that 5,000 years ago, human observers possessed the patience, mathematical ability, and cultural continuity necessary to track complex celestial cycles. 20. Prehistoric engineering that detected millisecond solar movement. The precision achieved at Newgrange defies comprehension and challenges everything we understand about Neolithic engineering capabilities. The monument's construction tolerances are so exact they can detect the sun's movement at 0.5 millimeters per second during the winter solstice. This sensitivity matches sophisticated instruments built thousands of years later. This level of precision wasn't accidental, but required mathematical calculations, surveying techniques, and construction methods that shouldn't have existed for millennia. The builders understood that Earth's rotation causes the sun's apparent movement across the sky, calculated the exact angle required for solstice illumination, and constructed the monument with tolerances measured in fractions of degrees. Archaeological analysis reveals sophisticated construction techniques, including perfectly level foundations, precisely aligned stones, and engineered drainage systems that have kept the monument stable for 5,000 years. The interior passage slopes at exactly 15 degrees. The roof box is positioned with millimeter accuracy. The entire structure demonstrates understanding of geometry, astronomy, and engineering that rivals modern capabilities. Construction required coordinated efforts from hundreds of workers using standardized measurements and quality control systems that ensured perfect alignment. The mathematical knowledge necessary for these calculations suggests educational systems that preserved and transmitted complex information across generations. This engineering precision proves Neolithic peoples possessed scientific understanding that fundamentally challenges primitive stereotypes. 21. Göbekli Tepe overturns everything. In the hills of southeastern Turkey, archaeologists uncovered a discovery that completely overturned our understanding of civilization's origins. Göbekli Tepe features massive stone pillars weighing up to 50 tons, carved with intricate reliefs and arranged in sophisticated circular formations. But here's what makes this discovery earth-shattering. It was built by hunter-gatherers before agriculture was established. This completely reverses the accepted theory that farming led to civilization. Instead, organizing massive construction projects may have forced people to develop agriculture to feed coordinated workforces. The site required sophisticated planning, engineering knowledge, and social organization that contradicts everything we thought we knew about prehistoric capabilities. Each pillar was quarried from bedrock using techniques that remain mysterious, transported across difficult terrain without wheels or domesticated animals, and erected with precision that rivals modern construction. The intricate carvings depict animals, abstract symbols, and possibly astronomical alignments, suggesting complex religious or ceremonial purposes. The site was deliberately buried around 8000 BCE, preserving it for modern discovery, but raising questions about why such an important location was abandoned. Carbon dating proves the complex is 11,000 years old, making it older than Stonehenge by 6,000 years and older than the pyramids by 7,000 years. This discovery forces us to reconsider everything about civilization's development and prehistoric human capabilities. 22. The Neanderthal Bruniquel cave structures. Deep underground in southwestern France, researchers made a discovery that revolutionized our understanding of Neanderthal capabilities and challenged assumptions about prehistoric intelligence. 176,500 years ago, Neanderthals ventured 336 meters into the pitch-black depths of Bruniquel Cave and built elaborate ring-like structures using 400 broken stalagmite pieces weighing 22 tons total. This represents the oldest known construction in a deep cave environment. The implications are staggering. These ancient engineers had to navigate treacherous underground passages in complete darkness, requiring sophisticated lighting systems and careful planning. The structures weren't random arrangements, but deliberate constructions with specific architectural features, circular and oval formations, carefully aligned components, and evidence of fire usage that suggests ceremonial or practical purposes. Building these formations required coordinated group effort, specialized tools for breaking stalagmites, and organizational skills for transporting heavy materials through narrow cave passages. The purpose remains mysterious. Some researchers suggest ritualistic activities. Others propose practical functions like food storage or shelter preparation. What's certain is that Neanderthals possessed cognitive abilities for complex planning, spatial reasoning, and social coordination that contradicts primitive stereotypes. This discovery proves that 176,500 years ago, our extinct cousins were creating sophisticated structures for unknown purposes, demonstrating intellectual capabilities that rival our own. 23. Scottish Neolithic stone balls. Scattered across Scotland, archaeologists have discovered over 425 mysterious objects that continue to baffle researchers despite decades of intensive study. These elaborately carved stone balls, dating to the Neolithic period, represent one of archaeology's most enduring mysteries. Each ball is meticulously crafted with complex geometric patterns, intricate knob arrangements, and sophisticated symmetry that required considerable skill and time investment. The craftsmanship is extraordinary. Perfectly spherical shapes carved from hard stone using primitive tools. Geometric patterns that demonstrate understanding of mathematical principles. Decorative elements that suggest aesthetic sensibilities and cultural significance. Despite over 425 examples discovered across Scotland, their purpose remains completely unknown. Theories abound, but none satisfy all evidence. Some suggest they were weapons, others propose ceremonial objects. Additional theories include astronomical instruments, status symbols, or trade goods. The distribution pattern is intriguing. Concentrated in northeastern Scotland, but with examples found across the British Isles and even continental Europe, suggesting extensive trade networks or cultural exchange. The time and skill required to create each ball indicates they held significant importance in Neolithic society, yet their function remains lost to history. These mysterious objects prove that our ancestors created sophisticated artifacts for purposes we can't comprehend, suggesting complex cultural practices that have vanished without trace. 24. The Mammoth Bone Architecture. In the frozen steppes of Russia, archaeologists uncovered evidence of construction projects that challenge everything we thought we knew about Ice Age capabilities. 25,000 years ago, prehistoric peoples built a massive structure spanning 40 feet across using bones from 60 different mammoths. The scale is breathtaking and the engineering mysterious. This wasn't a simple shelter or food storage area. The structure required sophisticated planning, coordinated hunting of dozens of massive animals, and construction techniques that archaeologists still don't fully understand. Each mammoth contributed specific bones selected for particular structural functions. Skulls formed foundation elements. Long bones created framework supports. Ribs provided curved architectural elements that distributed weight efficiently. The construction required understanding of engineering principles including load distribution, structural integrity, and material properties that wouldn't be formally developed for thousands of years. Transportation of materials alone represents a logistical nightmare. Adult mammoth skulls weigh over 200 pounds each. Moving 60 sets of bones across frozen terrain required organized labor forces and sophisticated planning. The purpose remains enigmatic. The structure was too large for simple shelter, too complex for food storage, too elaborate for temporary use. This mammoth bone architecture proves that 25,000 years ago, humans possessed construction capabilities and organizational skills that challenge every assumption about Ice Age limitations and demonstrate sophisticated engineering thinking. 25. Lipinski Vir, Europe's first planned settlement. Along the banks of the Danube River in Serbia, archaeologists discovered something that rewrote the history of European urban development. Lipinski Vir, dating to 8,500 years ago, represents Europe's first discovered planned settlement with houses arranged in a strict horseshoe pattern around a central square. This wasn't accidental village growth, but deliberate urban planning that predated known city development by millennia. The settlement layout demonstrates sophisticated understanding of community organization, traffic flow, and social hierarchy that challenges assumptions about Mesolithic capabilities. Each house was precisely positioned according to a master plan. The central plaza served as a focal point for community activities. The riverside location was strategically chosen for access to abundant fish resources. The houses themselves were architectural marvels featuring stone foundations, organized interior spaces, and sophisticated hearth systems that maximized heating efficiency while minimizing smoke. Most remarkably, the settlement was continuously occupied and rebuilt multiple times, with each reconstruction following the same precise layout, proving the planning principles were maintained across generations. Archaeological evidence reveals complex social organization, including craft specialization, trade networks, and possibly early forms of governance that coordinated community activities. This planned settlement proves that 8,500 years ago, European peoples possessed urban planning capabilities and social organization skills that fundamentally challenge nomadic hunter-gatherer stereotypes and demonstrate sophisticated community development thinking. 26. Sophisticated burial hierarchies. In Mesolithic cemeteries across Europe, archaeologists uncovered burial practices that reveal shocking insights into prehistoric social organization and spiritual beliefs. Some sites show dogs receiving more elaborate burial treatment than human children. This discovery challenges everything we thought we knew about prehistoric societies and their relationship with animals. The dog burials feature rich grave goods, careful positioning, and evidence of ceremonial preparation that indicates these animals held special spiritual or social significance. Meanwhile, human children were often buried with minimal ceremony and few grave goods, suggesting different cultural values about age, spiritual development, or social status. The burial hierarchies reveal complex social stratification that contradicts assumptions about egalitarian hunter-gatherer societies. Some individuals received elaborate treatment with extensive grave goods, carefully arranged positioning, and evidence of prolonged ceremonial preparation. Others were buried simply with minimal ceremony, indicating social distinctions based on unknown criteria. The differential treatment suggests sophisticated belief systems about afterlife, spiritual development, or social roles that we can barely comprehend. Archaeological analysis reveals that burial practices were maintained consistently across generations, indicating established cultural traditions and educational systems that preserve complex religious or social knowledge. These sophisticated burial hierarchies prove that Mesolithic peoples possessed complex spiritual beliefs and social organization that challenges primitive stereotypes and demonstrates cultural sophistication. 27. The Sungir Spectacle. In the frozen ground of Russia, archaeologists uncovered burial sites that would rewrite our understanding of Ice Age social organization and artistic achievement. The 30,000-year-old Sungir burials include children covered in over 10,000 ivory beads, along with fox teeth, elaborate weapons, and sophisticated grave goods that represent thousands of hours of skilled craftsmanship. The implications are staggering. Creating 10,000 ivory beads required extraordinary time investment, advanced manufacturing techniques, and specialized skills that suggest dedicated artisan classes. Each bead was individually carved, polished, and drilled using primitive tools. The total production time for a single burial's beadwork has been estimated at over 2,000 hours of skilled labor. The children receiving such elaborate treatment indicates sophisticated social hierarchies and inheritance systems that contradicted assumptions about egalitarian hunter-gatherer societies. The grave goods include intricately carved spear points, decorated clothing, and symbolic artifacts that demonstrate artistic sensibilities and cultural sophistication. The fox teeth arrangements suggest specific cultural meanings or spiritual beliefs about animal powers or protection in the afterlife. Most remarkably, the burial practices were consistent across multiple individuals, indicating established cultural traditions maintained across generations. These spectacular burials prove that 30,000 years ago, Ice Age peoples possessed social hierarchies, artistic capabilities, and cultural sophistication that rivals any later civilization and challenges every assumption about prehistoric limitations. 28. Paleolithic equality. Across 85 Upper Paleolithic burial sites spanning thousands of years, archaeologists made a discovery that challenges modern assumptions about prehistoric gender roles and social organization. Elaborate grave goods were equally distributed between men and women. This revelation contradicts traditional stereotypes about patriarchal hunter-gatherer societies and reveals egalitarian social structures that many modern societies haven't achieved. Women received the same quality and quantity of burial goods as men. Sophisticated tools, artistic objects, ceremonial items, and status symbols that indicate equal social standing. The grave goods include complex artifacts requiring specialized skills, intricately carved bone tools, elaborate jewelry, sophisticated weapons, and artistic objects that suggest women participated fully in all aspects of society. Some female burials show evidence of occupational specialization, tool manufacturing, artistic production, and possibly leadership roles that indicate diverse career opportunities. The equal treatment extends across different cultures, geographic regions, and time periods, suggesting widespread cultural values about gender equality. This prehistoric equality contrasts sharply with many agricultural and historical societies that developed strict gender hierarchies and limited women's roles. The evidence suggests that gender equality was the norm rather than the exception in Paleolithic societies, and that patriarchal systems may have developed later with agricultural settlements. These egalitarian burial practices prove our ancestors possessed social values about gender equality that challenge assumptions about prehistoric social development. 29. Transcontinental amber routes. Across the vast expanse of Europe, archaeologists discovered evidence of trade networks that challenge everything we thought we knew about prehistoric mobility and economic organization. Baltic amber reached Mediterranean Spain 5,000 years ago. Over a millennium before the Bell Beaker culture was supposed to have established the first extensive European trade networks. This discovery proves that sophisticated continental trade systems existed far earlier than previously imagined. The amber had to travel over 1,000 miles from Baltic shores to Spanish archaeological sites, crossing multiple river systems, mountain ranges, and cultural territories without modern transportation. This wasn't occasional exchange, but systematic trade requiring organized networks, standardized value systems, and diplomatic relationships that ensured safe passage across hostile territories. The amber appears in Spanish sites as finished jewelry, tools, and ceremonial objects, indicating specialized manufacturing and quality control that suggest professional trading relationships. Archaeological analysis reveals that this trade operated continuously for centuries, indicating stable political and economic systems that maintained international commerce across vast distances. The logistics required sophisticated planning, identification of high-quality amber sources, establishment of trade routes, development of exchange rates, and creation of diplomatic relationships with intermediate peoples. These transcontinental amber routes prove that Mesolithic Neolithic Europeans possessed economic sophistication, diplomatic skills, and organizational capabilities that fundamentally challenge assumptions about prehistoric limitations and demonstrate advanced commercial thinking. 30. Obsidian superhighways. Across Europe and the Near East, archaeologists discovered evidence of trade networks so sophisticated they rival modern international commerce. Turkish obsidian was transported over 1,000 kilometers to archaeological sites throughout the region, with some communities receiving 50% of their stone tools from sources 250+ miles away. This represents humanity's earliest international trade system. The obsidian trade required sophisticated logistics that would challenge modern supply chain managers. High-quality volcanic glass had to be quarried from specific Turkish sources, processed into standardized tools, and distributed across treacherous terrain to customers spanning 3 continents. The trade operated for thousands of years, indicating stable economic relationships, established trade routes, and diplomatic agreements that ensured safe passage across multiple cultural territories. Archaeological analysis reveals quality control systems that ensured consistent product standards across vast distances. Customers in Scotland received the same high-quality obsidian tools as those in the Mediterranean. The distribution patterns suggest organized networks with specialized roles: quarry workers, tool manufacturers, transporters, and local distributors who maintained international commerce without modern communication or transportation. Some sites show evidence of obsidian tool repair and recycling, indicating sophisticated understanding of resource management and sustainable trade practices. These obsidian superhighways prove that prehistoric peoples possessed commercial sophistication, diplomatic skills, and organizational capabilities that establish foundations for all subsequent international trade. 31. Stonehenge's Scottish Secret. In 2024, researchers made a discovery that rewrote everything we thought we knew about Stonehenge's construction and the organizational capabilities of Neolithic Britain. The monument's massive 6-ton altar stone originated in Scotland, requiring a 600-mile journey 4,600 years ago without wheels or domesticated animals. This revelation transforms our understanding of prehistoric logistics and social organization. Transporting a 6-ton stone across 600 miles of difficult terrain represents one of the most challenging logistics operations in human history, accomplished with Stone Age technology. The journey required crossing rivers, mountains, and hostile territories using only human power, wooden rollers, and primitive rope technology. Archaeological analysis suggests the stone was deliberately selected from Scottish sources despite abundant local alternatives, indicating specific geological knowledge and quality requirements. The transportation project required coordinated effort from hundreds of people across multiple communities, sophisticated planning, and diplomatic relationships that ensured safe passage through different territorial boundaries. The operation demonstrates understanding of engineering principles, including load distribution, friction reduction, and route optimization that wouldn't be formally developed for thousands of years. Most remarkably, the Scottish stone was incorporated into Stonehenge's most sacred central area, suggesting profound spiritual or ceremonial significance that justified the extraordinary effort. This logistical achievement proves Neolithic Britons possessed organizational capabilities, geographical knowledge, and engineering skills that challenge every assumption about prehistoric limitations. 32. Ice Age survival technology. During the last glacial maximum, when temperatures dropped 7 to 15 degrees Celsius below modern levels and ice sheets covered much of the northern hemisphere, humans not only survived but thrived in environments that would challenge modern survival experts. Our Ice Age ancestors developed survival technology so sophisticated it enabled permanent settlement in regions that remained uninhabitable for thousands of years after the ice retreated. The clothing technology alone represents remarkable innovation. Tailored garments using specialized techniques for waterproofing, insulation, and temperature regulation that wouldn't be improved upon until modern synthetic materials. Archaeological evidence reveals sophisticated shelter construction using materials available in frozen environments. Mammoth bones for structural support, hides for weather protection, and carefully designed ventilation systems that prevented carbon monoxide poisoning. The food storage systems enabled survival through brutal winters lasting 8 months or more. Techniques for preserving meat, processing plant materials, and maintaining nutrition that sustained communities through seasons when fresh food was impossible to obtain. Tool technology adapted to extreme cold. Specialized designs that remained functional in sub-zero temperatures, materials that didn't become brittle in extreme cold, and manufacturing techniques that worked with limited resources. Most remarkably, these survival systems supported not just individual survival, but thriving communities that maintained complex cultural practices, artistic traditions, and technological innovation throughout the harshest climate conditions Earth has experienced since human evolution. 33. Survival through Toba supereruption. 74,000 years ago, the Toba supervolcano in Indonesia exploded with the force of 1,000,000 atomic bombs, creating a catastrophe that covered South Asia in ash and triggered a volcanic winter that lasted for years. This eruption was so devastating that some scientists theorized it nearly drove humanity to extinction, reducing our population to perhaps 10,000 individuals worldwide. But stone tools discovered in India tell a different story. Human populations not only survived the catastrophic eruption, but maintained their technological traditions and cultural practices throughout the crisis. The tools found in ash layers prove that humans were present in India during and after the eruption, contradicting theories about population collapse and regional abandonment. The artifacts show no decline in manufacturing quality or technological sophistication, indicating that communities maintained their skills and knowledge systems despite environmental devastation. Archaeological evidence suggests humans developed adaptive strategies that enabled survival through the volcanic winter. Modified hunting techniques for changed animal populations, adjusted food storage for altered seasonal patterns, and possibly dietary shifts to available resources. The survival through Toba demonstrates extraordinary human resilience and adaptability that enabled our species to survive environmental catastrophes that would eliminate most other species. This discovery proves that 74,000 years ago, humans possessed survival skills, environmental knowledge, and social organization that enabled survival through conditions that would challenge modern civilization. 34. Plant-based Stone Age diet. In the mountains of Morocco, isotopic analysis of 15,000-year-old human remains revealed a dietary discovery that challenges every stereotype about meat-obsessed Paleolithic peoples. Iberomasian hunter-gatherers had primarily plant-based diets 8,000 years before agriculture was supposed to have made such diets possible. This discovery revolutionizes our understanding of prehistoric nutrition and food systems. The isotopic evidence indicates these populations derived most of their calories from wild plants, with meat comprising a smaller portion of their diet than previously assumed for any hunter-gatherer society. This plant-based focus required sophisticated knowledge of wild plant processing, seasonal availability, nutritional properties, and preparation techniques that maximize caloric and nutritional value. Archaeological evidence reveals advanced food processing technology, grinding stones, cooking vessels, and storage systems that enable communities to process wild plants into nutritious, digestible foods. The diet required detailed botanical knowledge, including identification of edible species, optimal harvesting times, preparation methods that remove toxins, and storage techniques that preserve nutrients. Most remarkably, this plant-focused diet supported healthy populations with evidence of good nutrition, normal growth patterns, and successful reproduction. This discovery proves that sophisticated plant-based nutrition systems existed thousands of years before agriculture, challenging assumptions about prehistoric diets and demonstrating that our ancestors possessed botanical knowledge and food processing skills that enabled diverse dietary strategies. 35. modern humans reached northern Europe 45,000 years ago. In 2024, revolutionary DNA analysis from German archaeological sites rewrote the timeline of human migration and revealed shocking details about Europe's first modern human inhabitants. Modern humans reached northern Europe 45,000 years ago, thousands of years earlier than previously thought, and they looked nothing like modern Europeans. These early Europeans had dark skin, brown eyes, and dark hair, reflecting their recent African origins while demonstrating sophisticated adaptation to subarctic conditions. The genetic analysis reveals these populations possessed the same cognitive abilities as modern humans, but faced environmental challenges that would test any civilization. They arrived during a period of extreme climate instability with rapid temperature fluctuations, advancing ice sheets, and dramatically changing landscapes that required constant adaptation. Despite these challenges, they established permanent settlements, developed sophisticated tool technologies, and maintained cultural traditions that survived for thousands of years. The DNA evidence shows these populations successfully interbred with Neanderthals, creating hybrid offspring that contributed to modern European genetics. Most remarkably, they maintained genetic diversity and cultural sophistication throughout the harsh Ice Age conditions, proving that early human populations possessed remarkable resilience and adaptability. This discovery fundamentally challenges assumptions about human migration patterns, the timeline of European settlement, and the capabilities of early human populations, proving our ancestors possessed survival skills and cultural sophistication that enabled successful colonization of hostile environments. 36. Oldest cave art narrative scene. Deep in the limestone caves of Indonesia, archaeologists made a discovery that revolutionized our understanding of human storytelling and pushed back the origins of narrative art by tens of thousands of years. Using revolutionary laser ablation uranium series dating, researchers dated cave paintings to 200+ years ago, making them the oldest known narrative scenes in human art. The paintings depict humans and pigs in complex hunting scenes that tell complete stories with beginning, middle, and conclusion. This discovery proves that complex storytelling, narrative structure, and symbolic communication emerged far earlier than European cave art and developed independently across multiple continents. The Indonesian scenes demonstrate sophisticated artistic techniques, including perspective, proportion, and narrative flow that communicate complex ideas across tens of thousands of years. The artists understood composition, character development, and story progression that rivals modern narrative art in sophistication and effectiveness. The pigment preparation required advanced chemistry knowledge, while the cave art's strategic placement suggests educational or ceremonial purposes that indicate sophisticated cultural practices. Most importantly, these discoveries prove that symbolic thinking, abstract reasoning, and narrative communication were universal human capabilities that emerged independently wherever modern humans settled. This narrative art demonstrates that 51,200 years ago, humans possessed the same cognitive abilities for storytelling, artistic expression, and cultural transmission that define modern human consciousness and creative achievement. 37. World's oldest wooden structure. In the remote wilderness of Zambia, archaeologists made a discovery that challenged fundamental assumptions about early human technological capabilities and lifestyle patterns. Dating to 476,000 years ago, they uncovered the world's oldest wooden structure, two interlocking logs joined by intentionally cut notches that created a stable, functional construction. This discovery predates the supposed development of advanced tool use by hundreds of thousands of years. The wooden structure wasn't accidental or natural, but represented deliberate construction requiring planning, tool use, and engineering understanding that shouldn't have existed among early human populations. The notches were precisely cut to specific dimensions that ensured proper fit and structural stability. The wood selection showed understanding of material properties and durability requirements. Most significantly, This structure suggests semi-permanent settlement rather than nomadic lifestyles, challenging assumptions about early human mobility patterns and social organization. The construction required sophisticated tools for cutting, shaping, and fitting wooden components with precision that indicates advanced technological capabilities. The discovery location, near water sources, suggests strategic site selection for long-term occupation, indicating planning and environmental knowledge that enabled sustainable settlement. This ancient wooden structure proves that 476,000 years ago, early humans possessed construction capabilities, tool technologies, and settlement patterns that fundamentally challenge primitive stereotypes and demonstrate sophisticated environmental adaptation and technological innovation. 38. Stone Age cellars in Denmark. In 2024, Danish archaeologists made a discovery that represents unprecedented architectural advancement for Stone Age Europe and challenges assumptions about prehistoric food preservation capabilities. Sophisticated stone-paved subterranean constructions dating from 3080 to 2780 BCE were uncovered, featuring advanced engineering that enabled year-round food storage and preservation. These Stone Age cellars demonstrate architectural sophistication that wouldn't be seen again for thousands of years. The constructions feature carefully fitted stone walls, engineered drainage systems, and ventilation designs that maintained optimal temperature and humidity for food preservation. The cellars were strategically positioned to take advantage of natural cooling and insulation properties, demonstrating understanding of thermodynamics and environmental engineering. Archaeological evidence reveals these facilities were used for storing grain, meat, and other perishables through seasonal variations, enabling communities to survive harsh winters and food shortages. The construction required quarrying, transportation, and placement of massive stone blocks using sophisticated techniques that indicate advanced engineering knowledge and organizational capabilities. Most remarkably, the cellars show evidence of continuous use and maintenance across generations, proving that communities maintain these facilities as essential infrastructure. These subterranean constructions prove that Stone Age Europeans possessed architectural knowledge, engineering skills, and food preservation techniques that enabled sophisticated resource management and community planning that challenges every assumption about prehistoric limitations. 39. Venus figurines mystery. Scattered across Europe and Asia, archaeologists have discovered over 200 small female figurines that represent one of archaeology's most enduring and fascinating mysteries. These Venus figurines display remarkably similar characteristics despite being created by different cultures separated by thousands of years and thousands of miles. The consistency is extraordinary and inexplicable. From France to Siberia, from 30,000 to 20,000 years ago, these figurines share specific artistic conventions: exaggerated feminine features, similar proportions, consistent artistic styles, and common symbolic elements. The widespread distribution suggests shared cultural meanings that transcended geographic and temporal boundaries, indicating communication networks or common symbolic traditions that span continents. Each figurine required considerable skill and time investment, suggesting they held significant cultural or spiritual importance that justified the effort required for creation. The artistic conventions are so consistent they suggest standardized training, shared symbolic meanings, or common religious practices that maintained artistic traditions across vast distances and time periods. Some figurines show evidence of extensive handling, suggesting they were personal objects used in daily life rather than ceremonial artifacts stored for special occasions. Despite intensive study and numerous theories, their purpose remains completely unknown, proving that our ancestors created sophisticated cultural artifacts for reasons we cannot comprehend, and suggesting complex spiritual or social practices that have vanished without trace. 40. Undeciphered Paleolithic symbols. Across multiple Stone Age sites spanning tens of thousands of years, archaeologists have discovered symbolic markings that may represent humanity's earliest attempts at written communication. But their meanings remain lost to history. The Blombos cave engravings from South Africa, dating to 70,000 years ago, feature geometric patterns that appear deliberately created with symbolic intent rather than random decoration. European cave signs found throughout Paleolithic art sites display consistent symbolic elements that suggest grammatical rules and meaningful communication systems. The Tartaria tablets from Romania, dating to 5,500 BCE, feature inscribed symbols that predate known writing systems and may represent early attempts at record-keeping or communication. These symbols appear across different cultures, geographic regions, and time periods, suggesting either independent development of symbolic communication or widespread cultural exchange that maintains symbolic traditions. The consistency of certain symbols across vast distances and time periods indicates they held specific meanings that were taught and transmitted across generations. Archaeological analysis reveals these symbols were created with intention and care, suggesting they serve important functions in prehistoric societies rather than random artistic expression. The inability to decipher these ancient symbols represents one of archaeology's greatest challenges and suggests that our ancestors possess communication systems and cultural practices that we can barely comprehend. These undeciphered symbols prove that prehistoric peoples developed sophisticated symbolic communication that predated known writing by tens of thousands of years. 41. Anomalous developmental abnormalities. In Pleistocene human remains, researchers discovered a disturbing pattern that challenges our understanding of early human populations and raises questions about unknown environmental or genetic factors. 75 cases of rare developmental conditions have been identified from just 66 individuals, a frequency that defies statistical probability. Many of these conditions have extremely low occurrence rates in modern populations, making their concentration in prehistoric remains statistically impossible under normal circumstances. The abnormalities include complex spinal malformations, unusual skull modifications, and genetic conditions that should occur in perhaps 1 in millions of individuals. The clustering suggests unknown environmental factors, genetic bottlenecks, or cultural practices that influenced early human development in ways we don't understand. Some abnormalities appear to be hereditary conditions that were maintained across generations, suggesting these individuals survived and reproduced despite physical challenges. Others show evidence of adaptive responses that enabled functional lives despite significant physical limitations, indicating sophisticated medical care or social support systems. The geographic distribution spans multiple continents and time periods, suggesting widespread factors rather than isolated environmental causes. Most remarkably, many individuals with severe abnormalities show evidence of living full adult lives, indicating that prehistoric communities provided care and support that enabled survival despite significant challenges. These anomalous abnormalities suggest unknown factors affecting early human populations and demonstrate that prehistoric societies possessed medical knowledge and social systems that supported disabled individuals. 42. The Djibouti flute controversy. In a Slovenian cave, archaeologists discovered a 43,000-year-old perforated cave bear bone that may represent the oldest musical instrument in human history. But the discovery sparked one of archaeology's most heated debates. The bone features precisely placed holes that could produce musical tones when blown like a flute, suggesting Neanderthals possessed musical capabilities and cultural sophistication previously attributed only to modern humans. The hole placement appears deliberate rather than accidental, with spacing that would create harmonic intervals when used as a wind instrument. Experimental archaeology has demonstrated that the bone could produce recognizable musical scales, supporting theories about Neanderthal musical abilities. However, critics argue the holes could have been created by animal gnawing rather than deliberate human modification, sparking decades of scientific debate. The controversy highlights broader questions about Neanderthal cognitive abilities, cultural sophistication, and artistic capabilities that challenge assumptions about human uniqueness. If the bone is indeed a musical instrument, It proves that music, artistic expression, and cultural sophistication emerged far earlier than previously thought and weren't limited to modern humans. The debate continues because the implications are so significant. Evidence of Neanderthal music would fundamentally change our understanding of human cultural evolution and the origins of artistic expression. This controversial bone represents either humanity's oldest musical instrument or one of archaeology's most persistent misinterpretations, demonstrating how single discoveries can challenge entire theoretical frameworks. 43. Çatalhöyük, world's first urban experiment. In the heart of Turkey, archaeologists uncovered a 9,000-year-old settlement that challenged everything we thought we knew about early urban development and social organization. Çatalhöyük housed up to 10,000 people in a unique urban design that has never been replicated in human history. The city had no streets. Residents moved across interconnected rooftops like a prehistoric superhighway, entering their homes through roof hatches rather than doors. This created the world's first three-dimensional urban environment where rooftops served as public spaces. The architectural innovation solved multiple urban problems: defense, no ground-level access points; sanitation, waste disposal through floor openings; and social organization, rooftop areas for community activities. Each house was built against its neighbors, creating a continuous urban mass that could shelter thousands of people in a compact area without requiring defensive walls. The waste management system was sophisticated for its time. Organic waste was disposed through floor openings in chambers below houses, creating natural composting systems that fertilized agricultural areas. Archaeological evidence reveals complex social organization, including craft specialization, trade networks, and artistic traditions that were maintained across generations in this unique urban environment. The settlement was continuously occupied for over 1,000 years, proving the urban design was sustainable and successful despite its radical departure from conventional city planning. This urban experiment proves that 9,000 years ago, humans possessed city planning capabilities and social organization skills that created unique solutions to urban challenges. 44. Skara Brae, Neolithic Scotland's preserved village. On the windswept Orkney Islands of Scotland, a perfectly preserved 5,000-year-old village emerged from beneath sand dunes, revealing living conditions that surpassed many medieval European settlements. Skara Brae features stone furniture, sophisticated drainage systems, and indoor toilets that demonstrate Neolithic Scots had better sanitation than many Europeans would enjoy for thousands of years. Each house was a marvel of Stone Age engineering. Stone beds with comfortable sleeping arrangements, built-in dressers for storing personal belongings, sophisticated hearth systems that maximized heating efficiency while minimizing smoke production. The drainage system was revolutionary for its time. Stone-lined channels that carried wastewater away from living areas, preventing contamination and disease that plagued later urban settlements. Most remarkably, the houses featured indoor toilets connected to sophisticated sewage systems that wouldn't be matched in European cities until modern times. The village was connected by covered stone passages that allowed residents to move between houses during harsh weather without exposure to Scotland's brutal climate. Archaeological evidence reveals the community maintained this sophisticated infrastructure for over 600 years, indicating successful social organization and maintenance systems. The preservation quality is extraordinary. Organic materials including furniture, tools, and personal belongings survived intact, providing unprecedented insights into daily life 5,000 years ago. This preserved village proves that Neolithic peoples possessed architectural knowledge and engineering skills that created living standards superior to many later civilizations. 45. Poverty Point, America's first city. In the Louisiana wilderness, archaeologists uncovered evidence of America's first monumental architecture and urban planning that challenges assumptions about North American prehistoric development. Poverty Point covered 345 acres with 6 concentric C-shaped ridges and a 72-foot tall mound. built by hunter-gatherers who moved 53 million cubic feet of soil without domesticated animals or wheeled carts. The construction scale is breathtaking and the organization mysterious. The earthwork ridges were precisely designed with mathematical relationships and astronomical alignments that suggest sophisticated planning and engineering knowledge. Archaeological evidence indicates the site was built during a remarkably short period, requiring coordinated labor from thousands of workers who transported massive amounts of earth using only baskets and human power. The ridges served as foundations for houses, workshops, and storage facilities that supported a permanent population engaged in complex economic activities, including tool manufacturing and long-distance trade. The site became a trading hub that connected communities across North America, with artifacts from sources over 1,000 miles away indicating extensive commercial networks. Most remarkably, this urban center was built by hunter-gatherers rather than agricultural peoples, challenging assumptions about the relationship between farming and urban development. The precision of construction and sophisticated planning prove that 3,500 years ago, North American peoples possessed engineering capabilities, organizational skills, and urban planning knowledge that created monumental architecture rivaling any contemporary civilization. 46. Sophisticated skull cult practices. At Göbekli Tepe, archaeologists discovered evidence of skull modification practices so sophisticated and unusual they represent completely unknown ritual traditions that challenge our understanding of prehistoric spiritual beliefs. The skull modifications were performed using techniques never seen before in archaeological records, suggesting complex ritual practices involving ancestor veneration and social memory preservation. The processing wasn't random violence, but careful, systematic modification that required specialized knowledge of anatomy and advanced tool use. Archaeological analysis reveals multiple stages of processing: initial removal from bodies, careful cleaning and preparation, deliberate modification using sophisticated techniques, and final placement in ritual contexts. The modified skulls show evidence of extended handling and possibly display, suggesting they served ongoing roles in community spiritual practices rather than single ceremonial events. The techniques required specialized tools, anatomical knowledge, and cultural traditions that were maintained across generations, indicating established religious practices and training systems. Most mysteriously, the modification patterns are unique to Göbekli Tepe and haven't been found at any other archaeological site, suggesting these practices were developed and maintained by this specific community. The skull cult practices were integrated with the site's monumental architecture and artistic traditions, indicating they were central to the community's spiritual and social organization. These sophisticated practices prove that 11,000 years ago, prehistoric communities developed complex religious traditions and ritual technologies that we can barely comprehend. Patruzit și șapte, multigenerational ritual collections. At Masuria Candelaro in Italy, archaeologists uncovered evidence of ritual traditions that spanned centuries and involved systematic collection of human remains across multiple generations. 400 skull fragments representing 15 males were collected over 200 years, spanning 6 to 8 generations of continuous ritual practice. This discovery reveals how Neolithic communities maintained complex spiritual traditions across time periods that exceed modern institutional memory. The skull collection wasn't random, but systematic, following specific criteria for selection that suggest established religious protocols and cultural rules maintained across generations. Archaeological analysis reveals the skulls were processed using consistent techniques, indicating standardized ritual practices that were taught and transmitted across multiple generations. The collection was carefully curated and maintained, with evidence of periodic reorganization and ritual renewal that kept the collection active across centuries. The multi-generational aspect proves these communities possessed institutional memory and cultural continuity that enabled preservation of complex spiritual practices across time periods that would challenge modern organizations. The geographic origins of skulls suggest the ritual practices involved wide-ranging connections and possibly pilgrimages or trade relationships that brought sacred materials from distant locations. Most remarkably, the ritual traditions were maintained with consistency across social changes, environmental variations, and cultural developments that occurred over 2 centuries. These multi-generational collections prove that Neolithic communities possessed spiritual sophistication, institutional stability, and cultural continuity that enabled preservation of complex religious traditions across centuries. 48 Plastertskal-Tradition. At Jericho, archaeologists discovered one of humanity's earliest and most sophisticated attempts at preserving human likenesses through advanced mortuary practices that created humanity's earliest portrait art. The plastered skull tradition involved carefully removing skulls from burials, applying clay facial features, and painting them to recreate lifelike appearances that maintained connections with deceased ancestors. This wasn't simple preservation, but sophisticated artistic reconstruction requiring advanced knowledge of facial anatomy, artistic techniques, and preservation methods. The process required multiple specialized skills: careful skull extraction without damage, anatomical knowledge for accurate facial reconstruction, artistic abilities for lifelike modeling, and chemical knowledge for creating durable plasters and paints. Each plastered skull was individually crafted with unique facial features that suggest attempts to recreate actual appearances rather than generic representations. The artistic quality rivals later portrait traditions in accuracy and emotional impact, demonstrating sophisticated aesthetic sensibilities and technical capabilities. Archaeological evidence suggests the plastered skulls were displayed and maintained for extended periods, indicating they served ongoing roles in community spiritual and social practices. The tradition was maintained across generations with consistent techniques and artistic standards, proving established cultural practices and training systems that preserved specialized knowledge. These plastered skulls represent humanity's earliest portrait art and demonstrate that 9,000 years ago, communities possessed artistic capabilities, spiritual sophistication, and preservation techniques that created lasting connections with ancestral figures. 49. Ochre obsession. Across the globe, from 100,000 plus years ago, red ochre appears in burials and art sites with such consistency that it suggests this iron oxide pigment held deep symbolic significance across all human cultures. The ochre obsession transcends geographic boundaries, cultural differences, and time periods, appearing wherever humans settled and suggesting universal symbolic meanings that connect all human societies. Red ochre required sophisticated processing, mining from specific geological sources, grinding to proper consistency, mixing with binding agents, and application using advanced techniques. The pigment appears in multiple contexts: body painting, burial decoration, cave art, tool coloring, and ceremonial objects, suggesting diverse symbolic uses that permeated all aspects of prehistoric life. Archaeological evidence reveals long-distance trade in high-quality ochre, with preferred sources transported hundreds of miles, indicating the pigment held value that justified extensive effort and expense. The processing technology became increasingly sophisticated over time. Specialized grinding tools, mixing vessels, and application techniques that created standardized colors and improved preservation. Most remarkably, the symbolic use of ochre appears to predate other forms of symbolic behavior, suggesting it may represent humanity's earliest universal symbol. The consistency across cultures suggests either shared ancestral traditions or independent development of similar symbolic meanings, indicating fundamental human psychological connections to red coloration. This ochre obsession proves that symbolic thinking, aesthetic sensibilities, and spiritual beliefs were universal human characteristics that emerged early in our species' development and connected all human communities through shared symbolic traditions. 50. Composite bow mastery. In the waterlogged conditions of Denmark, archaeologists discovered the world's oldest complete bow. Dating to 8,000 years ago, that displays sophisticated design features and engineering principles that wouldn't look out of place in modern archery shops. This wasn't a simple bent stick, but a masterpiece of materials engineering. The bow featured multiple wood types selected for specific properties: flexible heartwood for energy storage, dense sapwood for compression resistance, and specialized joining techniques that created optimal performance characteristics. The design incorporated advanced engineering principles, including reflex curves that increased power, grip modifications that improved accuracy, and string attachments that distributed stress efficiently. Archaeological analysis reveals the bow was designed for specific hunting requirements with draw weight, arrow compatibility, and performance characteristics optimized for particular prey species and hunting conditions. The construction required sophisticated woodworking techniques, precise shaping, steam bending, controlled drying, and surface finishing that created a weapon capable of reliable performance across years of use. Most remarkably, the preservation quality allows detailed analysis of manufacturing techniques that reveal knowledge of wood properties, stress distribution, and performance optimization that demonstrates advanced understanding of material science. The bow shows evidence of extensive use and maintenance, indicating it served as a reliable hunting tool that provided successful food procurement for its owner. This composite bow mastery proves that 8,000 years ago, Mesolithic peoples possessed engineering knowledge and manufacturing skills that created sophisticated weapons rivaling modern archery equipment. 51. Transverse arrow innovation. Mesolithic archers developed an arrow design so counterintuitive and effective that it was still being used in Egyptian pharaohs' tombs thousands of years later. The transverse arrow featured microliths mounted perpendicular to the shaft rather than parallel, creating cutting edges that enhance penetration and lethality in ways that seem to defy physics. This design shouldn't work according to conventional aerodynamics, but archaeological testing has proven its effectiveness. The perpendicular mounting created multiple cutting edges that increased wound channels and improved penetration through tough hides and armor that stopped conventional arrows. The innovation required understanding of projectile physics, wound mechanics, and materials engineering that enabled optimization of arrow performance for specific hunting and combat requirements. Archaeological evidence shows this arrow design spread across Europe and beyond, with examples found in contexts spanning thousands of years and multiple cultures. The technique required sophisticated manufacturing, precise microlith production, specialized hafting methods, and quality control that ensured reliable performance under field conditions. Most remarkably, these arrows were discovered in Tutankhamun's tomb, proving that Egyptian royal archers recognized the design superiority and adopted Mesolithic technology for pharaonic hunting expeditions. The persistence of this design across millennia and cultures proves that Mesolithic innovation created weapons technology that remained superior to conventional designs for thousands of years. This transverse arrow innovation demonstrates that prehistoric peoples possessed advanced understanding of projectile mechanics and materials engineering that created lasting technological advantages. 52. Advanced composite tools. In Mesoamerica, ancient craftsmen created weapons that combined materials science, engineering design, and manufacturing precision to produce some of the most terrifying and effective weapons in human history. The Macuahuitl sword featured obsidian blades mounted in wooden handles, combining volcanic glass cutting edges with serrated weapon design to create implements sharper than steel. The construction required sophisticated understanding of materials properties, with selection for optimal strength-to-weight ratios, obsidian knapping for razor-sharp edges, and adhesive technology for reliable blade attachment. Each weapon was custom-engineered for specific combat requirements with blade spacing, handle design, and weight distribution optimized for particular fighting techniques and user requirements. The obsidian blades were sharper than modern surgical scalpels, capable of cutting through Spanish steel armor and inflicting wounds that contemporary European weapons couldn't match. Archaeological evidence reveals specialized manufacturing workshops with organized production systems, quality control measures, and skilled craftsmen who maintained weapon-making traditions across generations. The weapons required continuous maintenance and blade replacement, indicating established support systems and spare parts availability that enabled long-term weapon effectiveness. Spanish conquistadors reported that these weapons could decapitate horses and cut through steel armor, describing them as more effective than European swords in close combat. These advanced composite tools prove that ancient Mesoamerican peoples possessed materials, science knowledge, and engineering skills that created weapons technology superior to contemporary European equivalents. 53. Precision tool manufacturing. At Lipari, an Italian island famous for obsidian sources, archaeological excavations revealed precision tool manufacturing that achieved quality standards comparable to modern surgical instruments. The obsidian bladelet production created razor-sharp tools used for the most delicate medical procedures, including ritual circumcisions and cutting newborns' umbilical cords. The manufacturing precision required controlling fracture patterns at the molecular level, creating cutting edges thinner than modern surgical scalpels. Each bladelet was crafted to exacting specifications with consistent dimensions, optimal cutting angles, and surface finish that enabled reliable performance for specific medical applications. The tools were so sharp they could perform surgical procedures with minimal tissue damage and reduced healing time compared to duller implements. Archaeological analysis reveals specialized knapping techniques that required years of training and practice to master, indicating established educational systems and craft specialization. The production involved quality control measures that ensured only the highest grade tools were used for medical procedures, with inferior products relegated to general cutting tasks. The precision manufacturing required understanding of obsidian's molecular structure, stress distribution patterns, and fracture mechanics that enabled predictable and controlled tool production. Most remarkably, these tools were considered so valuable they were traded across vast distances, with Lipari obsidian scalpels found in archaeological sites throughout the Mediterranean. This precision tool manufacturing proves that ancient peoples possessed materials, science knowledge, and manufacturing skills that created medical instruments rivaling modern surgical equipment. 54. Sophisticated waste management. At Mesolithic sites across Europe, archaeological evidence reveals organized waste disposal systems and spatial organization that demonstrate advanced understanding of hygiene and community health principles. These weren't random garbage dumps, but carefully planned waste management systems that prevented contamination and disease. The sites featured designated activity areas with specific zones for different types of waste, organic materials in composting areas, tool manufacturing debris in specialized workshops, and human waste in carefully located disposal areas. The spatial organization prevented cross-contamination between clean living areas and waste disposal zones, demonstrating understanding of disease transmission and public health principles. Archaeological analysis reveals maintenance systems that kept disposal areas clean and functional across years of continuous occupation, indicating organized community efforts and established protocols. The waste disposal technology included techniques for accelerating decomposition, controlling odors, and preventing pest attraction that enabled sustainable long-term settlement. Most remarkably, the systems were designed to recycle useful materials, bone tools from food waste, raw materials from broken implements, and organic materials for soil improvement. The sophistication of these systems rivals modern waste management in understanding of hygiene principles, environmental impact, and sustainable resource use. These waste management systems prove that Mesolithic peoples possessed public health knowledge, organizational skills, and environmental awareness that enabled sustainable community living and disease prevention through sophisticated sanitation practices. 55. Seasonal precision management. Isotope analysis of Mesolithic shell middens reveals sophisticated understanding of seasonal resources that enabled sustainable exploitation of marine environments across millennia. These communities had developed planned collection strategies that alternated intensive harvesting with conservation periods to maintain shell populations at sustainable levels. The precision of resource management demonstrates detailed ecological knowledge that required generations of careful observation and scientific understanding. Archaeological evidence shows communities tracked seasonal variations in shell growth, reproductive cycles, and population dynamics to optimize harvesting timing and intensity. The management strategies involved rotating collection areas to allow population recovery, adjusting harvesting methods based on species requirements, and maintaining breeding stocks that ensured future productivity. Most remarkably, the isotopic evidence reveals that these sustainable practices were maintained consistently across hundreds of years, indicating institutional memory and cultural traditions that preserved environmental knowledge. The communities understood carrying capacity concepts, population dynamics, and ecosystem management principles that weren't formally developed until modern conservation biology. The seasonal management extended beyond shellfish to include fish, marine mammals, and coastal plant resources, creating integrated sustainable exploitation systems. These precision management practices enabled communities to maintain high-quality marine protein sources across millennia without depleting resources or causing environmental degradation. This seasonal precision management proves that Mesolithic peoples possessed ecological knowledge and conservation principles that created sustainable resource use systems thousands of years before modern environmental science. 56. Deep-water fishing expertise. In Western Scotland, archaeological evidence reveals Mesolithic peoples possessed extensive knowledge of tides, fish behavior, and offshore species that enabled sophisticated marine exploitation using portable technology. These coastal communities had developed deep-water fishing capabilities that wouldn't be matched until modern commercial fishing operations. The fishing technology included portable traps, specialized hooks, and net systems designed for specific species and offshore conditions that required understanding of marine biology and oceanography. Archaeological evidence shows communities could predict and exploit seasonal fish migrations, tidal patterns, and weather conditions to optimize fishing success in challenging marine environments. The techniques enabled exploitation of deep-water species that required sophisticated navigation skills, weather prediction, and boat technology for safe offshore operations. Most remarkably, the communities maintained detailed knowledge of fish behavior patterns, seasonal variations, and optimal fishing locations that enabled reliable food procurement across unpredictable marine environments. The fishing expertise included understanding of fish processing, preservation, and storage techniques that enabled communities to maintain marine protein sources across seasonal variations. Archaeological analysis reveals specialized tools and facilities for different fishing methods: line fishing, trap fishing, and net fishing, indicating technological diversity and adaptation to different marine resources. These deep-water fishing capabilities prove that Mesolithic peoples possessed marine knowledge, navigation skills, and fishing technology that enabled sophisticated offshore resource exploitation, rivaling modern fishing operations. 57. Megashell middens. Across coastal regions worldwide, enormous shell accumulations represent thousands of years of continuous occupation and intensive marine resource exploitation that demonstrate sustainable harvesting practices maintained across millennia. These megashell middens contain millions of shells representing centuries of sustainable coastal resource management. The size and composition of middens reveal communities that maintain stable relationships with marine ecosystems across environmental changes, population variations, and cultural developments. Archaeological analysis shows consistent species composition and size distributions that indicate sustainable harvesting practices prevented overexploitation and maintained ecosystem balance. The middens demonstrate sophisticated understanding of marine ecology, including species life cycles, population dynamics, and environmental requirements that enabled long-term, sustainable exploitation. Most remarkably, the The shell accumulations show evidence of management practices, including seasonal restrictions, area rotations, and selective harvesting that maintained productive shell beds across millennia. The middens also reveal communities' adaptation to environmental changes, including sea level variations, climate fluctuations, and species availability changes while maintaining sustainable practices. Archaeological evidence shows these coastal communities developed integrated marine resource management that included multiple species, different harvesting techniques, and sustainable exploitation strategies. The preservation of organic materials in shell middens provides unprecedented insights into coastal technologies, dietary practices, and environmental knowledge that enabled sustainable marine resource use. These megashell middens prove that prehistoric coastal communities possessed ecological knowledge and resource management skills that created sustainable relationships with marine environments across thousands of years. 58. Denisovan hybrid discovery. Revolutionary genetic analysis has revealed that some Paleolithic humans were complex hybrids between Homo sapiens, Neanderthals, and the mysterious Denisovans, with this interbreeding contributing up to 20% of some modern human genomes. This wasn't occasional cross-species contact, but continuous interbreeding for 7,000 years that created new hybrid populations. The genetic evidence shows that different human species didn't live in isolation, but formed integrated communities where interbreeding was common and successful. Archaeological DNA analysis reveals that hybrid offspring were viable, fertile, and successful, contributing genetic advantages that enhance survival in different environments. The Denisovan genetic contribution provided adaptations for high-altitude living, immune system enhancements, and other survival advantages that remain beneficial in modern populations. Most remarkably, the interbreeding occurred across vast geographic regions and time periods, indicating widespread contact and genetic exchange between different human species. The hybrid populations weren't evolutionary dead ends, but successful communities that contributed to modern human genetic diversity and adaptive capabilities. Genetic analysis shows that some individuals carry genetic material from all three species, creating complex genetic combinations that enhanced human adaptability and survival. This hybrid discovery fundamentally changes our understanding of human evolution from a simple linear progression to a complex network of genetic exchange and species integration. The successful hybridization proves that human species boundaries were more fluid than previously thought, and that genetic diversity was a key factor in human evolutionary success. 59. The Tibetan superhumans. High in the Tibetan Plateau, modern populations possess genetic variants that enable superhuman performance at altitudes that would incapacitate most people, and these abilities were inherited from extinct Denisovans. 87% of Tibetans carry the EPES1 genetic variant that enables high-altitude function without the debilitating effects that affect other populations. This genetic adaptation allows Tibetans to live and work efficiently at altitudes above 14,000 feet, where oxygen levels are 40% lower than sea level. The genetic variant prevents altitude sickness, enables efficient oxygen utilization, and maintains physical performance that would be impossible for non-adapted populations. Archaeological evidence suggests Denisovans occupied the Tibetan Plateau for 160,000 years, developing these high-altitude adaptations through natural selection across thousands of generations. When modern humans arrived in Tibet, they interbred with Denisovan populations and inherited these crucial genetic adaptations that enabled successful settlement of high-altitude environments. Without this Denisovan genetic inheritance, modern humans might never have been able to permanently settle the Tibetan Plateau and other high-altitude regions. The genetic adaptation represents one of the fastest and most dramatic examples of human evolution, enabling occupation of environments that were previously uninhabitable. These Tibetan superhumans prove that human evolution involved genetic contributions from multiple species and that hybridization provided crucial adaptations that expanded human habitat range and survival capabilities. 60. Extended childhood evolution. Archaeological analysis of early Homo species from 177 million years ago reveals that despite having brain sizes 1/3 of modern humans, these ancestors had already developed prolonged childhoods similar to modern patterns. This discovery suggests that complex social structures and cooperative child-rearing existed much earlier than previously thought. Extended childhood requires sophisticated social organization, including shared childcare responsibilities, food sharing systems, and educational traditions that enable children to survive extended dependency periods. The evidence indicates that even with smaller brains, early human species had developed social systems that supported complex learning and skill development across extended maturation periods. Archaeological sites show evidence of child-specific tools, learning materials, and educational activities that indicate systematic knowledge transmission across generations. The extended childhood pattern suggests early human species possessed language capabilities, cultural traditions, and social organization that enabled complex skill acquisition and cultural transmission. Most remarkably, this social system appeared almost 2 million years ago, indicating that cooperative child-rearing and educational systems were fundamental characteristics of human evolution from its earliest stages. The extended childhood required communities to invest substantial resources in child development without immediate returns, suggesting sophisticated understanding of long-term benefits and social cooperation. This early extended childhood evolution proves that complex social structures, cooperative breeding, and educational systems were driving forces in human evolution that preceded large brain development by hundreds of thousands of years. 61. Neanderthal-human interbreeding peak. Genetic analysis has revealed that 47,000 years ago, Neanderthal-human interbreeding reached unprecedented levels where 1 in 20 ancestors would have been Neanderthal. This wasn't rare contact between isolated populations, but extensive genetic exchange that fundamentally shaped human evolution. The interbreeding was so common that hybrid offspring were normal rather than exceptional, indicating integrated communities where species boundaries were fluid and genetic exchange was routine. Archaeological evidence suggests these hybrid populations were successful and adaptive, combining genetic advantages for both species to create enhanced survival capabilities. The genetic exchange provided modern humans with adaptations for cold climates, immune system enhancements, and other survival advantages that enabled successful expansion into new environments. Most remarkably, the interbreeding continued for thousands of years across multiple regions, indicating sustained contact and genetic exchange rather than brief encounters. The hybrid populations weren't evolutionary dead ends, but successful communities that contributed to modern human genetic diversity and adaptive capabilities in ways we're still discovering. Genetic analysis shows that some modern human populations carry substantial Neanderthal genetic material that continues to provide adaptive advantages, including disease resistance and environmental adaptation. This interbreeding peak fundamentally changes our understanding of human evolution from species replacement to species integration, where genetic exchange was a driving force in human evolutionary success. 62. Arctique maritime Maastricht. Mesolithic peoples achieved sophisticated maritime technology that enabled successful navigation and resource exploitation in Arctic waters using vessels and techniques that wouldn't be improved upon for thousands of years. These maritime communities developed seagoing capabilities that enabled reaching remote islands and establishing trade routes across challenging northern waters. The boat technology included designs optimized for Arctic conditions, ice-resistant construction, cold weather materials, and navigation equipment adapted for extreme environments. Archaeological evidence reveals communities that could navigate by stars, ocean currents, and weather patterns to successfully traverse hundreds of miles of open water without modern instruments. The maritime skills enabled exploitation of offshore resources, including deepwater fish, marine mammals, and seasonal migrations that provided reliable food sources in harsh environments. Most remarkably, these communities maintain maritime traditions across generations, preserving navigation knowledge and boat-building techniques that enabled sustained Arctic maritime culture. The technology included specialized equipment for Arctic fishing, hunting, and survival that enabled communities to thrive in environments that challenge modern survival experts. Archaeological analysis reveals evidence of long-distance maritime trade and communication that connected Arctic communities across vast distances without modern transportation or communication technology. These Arctic maritime capabilities prove that Mesolithic peoples possessed navigation skills, boat technology, and survival knowledge that enabled successful exploitation of marine resources in the world's most challenging environments. 63. Advanced maritime navigation. 2 kilometers below the Mediterranean surface, a perfectly preserved 3,300-year-old Canaanite shipwreck provides direct evidence that Bronze Age seafarers used stellar navigation in deep water. This challenges theories about ancient navigation being limited to coastal sailing and proves sophisticated open ocean navigation capabilities. The shipwreck's location and cargo distribution indicate the vessel was following established deep-water trade routes that required navigation skills comparable to modern oceanic sailing. Archaeological analysis of the ship's construction reveals design features optimized for deep-water sailing, including hull reinforcement, navigation equipment, and cargo storage systems. The cargo includes materials from multiple Mediterranean regions, proving these vessels maintained complex trade networks that required reliable navigation across hundreds of miles of open water. Most remarkably, the preservation quality enables detailed analysis of navigation equipment and sailing technology that reveals sophisticated understanding of celestial navigation, weather prediction, and ocean currents. The shipwreck represents evidence of maritime traditions that enabled reliable deep-water navigation across the Mediterranean using stellar positions, seasonal patterns, and oceanographic knowledge. The navigation capabilities required generations of accumulated knowledge about star positions, seasonal variations, and ocean conditions that enabled predictable and reliable oceanic voyages. This advanced maritime navigation proves that Bronze Age seafarers possessed oceanographic knowledge, navigation skills, and sailing technology that enabled sophisticated deep-water commerce and communication across the Mediterranean. 64. Underwater time capsules. Submerged Danish shell middens, now lying 13+ meters underwater due to post-glacial sea level changes, preserve incredible organic artifacts that provide unprecedented insights into Mesolithic coastal life. These underwater time capsules contain fish traps, wooden tools, and complete arrows with resin-hafted microliths in perfect preservation conditions. The submersion created anaerobic conditions that prevented organic decay, preserving materials that normally decompose within years of deposition. Archaeological diving has recovered complete fishing equipment, including nets, traps, and specialized tools that reveal sophisticated marine exploitation techniques. The wooden tools show advanced carpentry skills, including precise joining techniques, surface finishing, and tool designs optimized for specific functions. Most remarkably, complete arrows preserve evidence of hafting techniques, adhesive technology, and microlith mounting methods that demonstrate sophisticated weapon manufacturing. The preservation enables detailed analysis of organic technologies that are rarely preserved in terrestrial archaeological sites, providing unique insights into Mesolithic capabilities. The underwater sites reveal the full technological repertoire of coastal communities, including boat building, fishing equipment, and resource processing tools that enabled sophisticated marine adaptation. These underwater time capsules prove that sea level changes have hidden vast amounts of archaeological evidence, and that coastal communities possess technological sophistication that we're only beginning to understand through underwater archaeology. 65. Laser Ablation Uranium Series Dating Revolution. Revolutionary laser ablation uranium series dating provides unprecedented accuracy in dating cave art and archaeological materials. pushing back dates by thousands of years while enabling analysis of microscopic samples without damaging precious artifacts. This technological breakthrough should revolutionize rock art dating worldwide, according to leading researchers. The technique enables dating of incredibly small samples, microscopic carbonate deposits over cave paintings, that previous methods couldn't analyze without destroying artwork. Archaeological applications have already revolutionized understanding of cave art chronology, proving human artistic capabilities existed tens of thousands of years earlier than previously documented. The precision enables detection of multiple painting episodes, restoration efforts, and artistic traditions that span millennia in single cave systems. Most remarkably, the method can date individual paint layers in complex cave art panels, revealing artistic development and cultural continuity across thousands of years. The technology enables analysis of previously undatable materials, including organic compounds, mineral deposits, and archaeological contexts that couldn't be dated using conventional methods. The dating revolution is revealing that human cultural sophistication, artistic achievement, and technological capability developed much earlier than conventional archaeological chronology suggested. This dating revolution proves that our understanding of prehistoric human capabilities has been limited by technological constraints rather than actual human achievements, and new dating methods are revealing far more sophisticated prehistoric accomplishments. 66. Ancient DNA from sediments. Breakthrough techniques for extracting human DNA from cave sediments at archaeological sites are revealing human presence even without bone preservation, opening revolutionary possibilities for detecting ancient occupation. This genetic archaeology can identify human occupation in sites where no human remains have been preserved, vastly expanding the archaeological record. The technique recovers genetic material from soil, cave deposits, and archaeological layers that contain DNA from ancient human activity, including waste, hair, skin cells, and organic materials. Archaeological applications have identified human occupation in caves and sites previously considered sterile because they lack preserved human remains or artifacts. The DNA evidence can identify different human species, including Homo sapiens, Neanderthals, and Denisovans from the same sediment layers, revealing complex occupation patterns. Most remarkably, the technique can detect human presence across vast time periods from single sites, creating genetic chronologies that span hundreds of thousands of years. The genetic information reveals population movements, species interactions, and occupation patterns that conventional archaeology couldn't detect through artifact analysis alone. The technology enables analysis of human occupation in environments where bone preservation is impossible, but genetic material survives in sediment matrices. This ancient DNA revolution proves that human occupation was far more extensive than the archaeological record suggests, and that genetic techniques are revealing hidden chapters of human prehistory. 67. AI-assisted archaeological analysis. Artificial intelligence applications are revolutionizing archaeological discovery by helping decipher ancient texts, identifying archaeological features in satellite imagery, and revealing previously unknown settlement patterns across multiple continents. AI algorithms can process vast amounts of satellite data to identify archaeological features that human analysts would miss or take years to catalog. The technology has already identified thousands of previously unknown archaeological sites, including ancient settlements, road networks, and monumental architecture across different continents. AI text analysis is helping decipher fragmentary ancient inscriptions and identifying linguistic patterns that reveal connections between different ancient cultures and writing systems. Most remarkably, machine learning algorithms can predict likely locations for undiscovered archaeological sites based on environmental factors, geographic patterns, and known settlement preferences. The technology enables non-invasive site discovery that reduces excavation costs and prevents damage to archaeological resources through targeted investigation. AI analysis of existing archaeological data is revealing patterns and connections that humans couldn't detect, creating new insights into ancient trade networks, cultural exchange, and technological development. The applications are expanding archaeological discovery from limited excavation sites to continental-scale analysis that reveals broad patterns of human settlement and cultural development. This AI revolution proves that technological advancement is accelerating archaeological discovery and revealing that human prehistoric achievement was far more extensive than traditional methods could detect. 68. LiDAR revolution in landscape archaeology. Light detection and ranging (LiDAR) technology is revealing vast archaeological landscapes that have been hidden beneath forest canopies, challenging assumptions about the scale and sophistication of prehistoric settlement. LiDAR penetrates vegetation to reveal ground-level archaeological features, including earthworks, settlements, and monumental architecture that traditional surveys couldn't detect. The technology has revealed over 6,000 interconnected earthen platforms in Ecuador dating back 2,000 years, representing sophisticated landscape modification and urban planning. Archaeological LiDAR surveys are revealing sophisticated Maya settlements, complex road networks, and agricultural systems that supported much larger populations than previously estimated. Most remarkably, LiDAR is revealing medieval Silk Road cities, ancient trade routes, and settlement networks that demonstrate the true scale of prehistoric and historic human landscape modification. The technology enables landscape-scale archaeology that reveals regional settlement patterns, territorial boundaries, and resource management systems that individual site excavations couldn't detect. LiDAR surveys are revolutionizing understanding of prehistoric demographics by revealing that ancient populations were much larger and more sophisticated than limited excavation data suggested. The discoveries prove that vast archaeological landscapes remain undiscovered beneath modern vegetation and that the true scale of human prehistoric achievement is far greater than previously imagined. This LiDAR revolution demonstrates that technological advancement is revealing hidden archaeological evidence and proving that prehistoric human societies achieved sophisticated landscape modification and urban planning across multiple continents. 69. Possible 30,000-year-old human presence. Mexico's Chicwa White Cave contains stone tools and ancient DNA that suggest human occupation in North America potentially 30,000 years ago, twice the accepted timeline for American colonization. This discovery challenges fundamental assumptions about when and how humans first reached the Americas. The stone tools show sophisticated manufacturing techniques that indicate established technological traditions rather than initial experimental tool-making by recent arrivals. Ancient DNA evidence supports human presence during periods when conventional models suggest the Americas were uninhabitable or unreachable due to Ice Age conditions. The archaeological evidence suggests these early populations possessed survival skills and technological capabilities that enabled successful settlement in challenging environments. Most remarkably, if confirmed, this evidence would require completely revising models of human migration, technological development, and environmental adaptation in the Americas. The discovery indicates that human expansion across the globe occurred much earlier than previously thought, and that our ancestors possessed navigation and survival capabilities that enabled reaching remote continents. The evidence challenges assumptions about technological prerequisites for long-distance migration and suggests that human maritime and survival capabilities were more advanced than conventional models suggest. This possible early American presence proves that human prehistoric achievements and migration capabilities may have been far more sophisticated than current archaeological models recognize. 70. Cultural hybridization at Xiyu, China. 45,000 years ago at Xiyu, China, archaeological evidence shows exceptional cultural mixing between incoming Homo sapiens and local groups, possibly including Neanderthals or Denisovans. This represents rare archaeological evidence of ancient cultural hybridization and technological exchange between different human species. The tool assemblages combine technological traditions from different human species, creating hybrid technologies that incorporated innovations from multiple cultural sources. Archaeological evidence suggests these communities weren't just trading materials, but sharing knowledge, techniques, and cultural practices that created new technological traditions. The cultural mixing produced innovative tool designs that combined features from different technological traditions, creating more effective implements than either source culture produced independently. Most remarkably, the hybridization appears to have been sustained over extended periods, indicating stable, integrated communities rather than brief contact episodes. The evidence suggests that cultural exchange was as important as genetic exchange in human evolution, with technological innovation emerging from contact between different human populations. The cultural hybridization proves that human evolution involved complex interactions between multiple species and that technological advancement emerged from cultural mixing and knowledge exchange. This cultural hybridization demonstrates that human prehistoric development involves sophisticated social interactions and that technological innovation emerged from contact between different human populations rather than isolated development. 71. 3,500-year-old cheese from Chinese mummies. Perfectly preserved cheese discovered with Chinese mummies provides crucial insights into ancient dairy culture and food preservation techniques that spread across Asia thousands of years earlier than previously documented. The cheese preservation reveals sophisticated understanding of fermentation, preservation, and food technology that enabled long-term storage of dairy products. Archaeological analysis of the cheese reveals complex production techniques, including specific bacterial cultures, aging processes, and preservation methods that created nutritious, long-lasting food supplies. The discovery proves that dairy culture and cheese production spread across Asia much earlier than historical records suggest, indicating extensive cultural exchange and technological transmission. Most remarkably, the cheese shows evidence of specialized production techniques that were maintained across generations, indicating established dairy traditions and technical knowledge. The preservation techniques enabled the cheese to survive thousands of years while maintaining recognizable structure and composition that reveals ancient production methods. The discovery indicates that ancient Asian populations possessed sophisticated food technology, preservation knowledge, and dairy culture that supported complex dietary systems. The cheese production required understanding of fermentation science, bacterial cultures, and preservation chemistry that demonstrates advanced food technology capabilities. This ancient cheese proves that prehistoric populations possessed food technology and preservation skills that enabled sophisticated dietary systems and long-term food storage across challenging environments. 72. 8,200-year-old rock art in Argentina. In the remote mountains of Argentina, archaeologists discovered 900 cave paintings that are several thousand years older than other American rock art, featuring geometric and figurative designs that suggest sophisticated symbolic thinking. The rock art displays remarkable sophistication in composition, technique, and symbolic complexity that challenges assumptions about early South American cultural development. The paintings include complex geometric patterns, naturalistic animal representations, and abstract symbols that suggest sophisticated symbolic communication and artistic traditions. Archaeological analysis reveals the artists used advanced pigment preparation techniques, sophisticated painting methods, and compositional principles that demonstrate artistic training and cultural traditions. The artistic sophistication suggests these early South American populations possessed symbolic thinking, aesthetic sensibilities, and cultural practices that rivaled contemporary developments in other continents. Most remarkably, the art shows evidence of multiple painting episodes and artistic development over time, indicating sustained cultural traditions and artistic knowledge transmission. The discovery proves that sophisticated artistic expression and symbolic communication emerged independently in South America much earlier than previously thought. The rock art represents some of the earliest evidence of complex symbolic behavior in the Americas and demonstrates that early populations possessed cognitive capabilities and cultural sophistication that challenges primitive stereotypes. This ancient Argentine rock art proves that sophisticated symbolic thinking and artistic achievement emerged across multiple continents independently, and that human cultural capabilities developed much earlier than conventional timelines suggest. 73. Taz Tepeler, Turkey's temple network. Recent discoveries reveal that Göbekli Tepe is part of a vast network of over 20 similar sites spanning southeastern Turkey 11,000 years ago, suggesting coordinated religious or social systems operating across enormous territories. This network represents the world's earliest known coordinated monumental architecture project spanning hundreds of square miles. The sites share architectural features, artistic motifs, and construction techniques that indicate shared cultural traditions and possibly centralized planning or religious authority. Archaeological evidence suggests the network was built and maintained by coordinated communities that shared knowledge, resources, and organizational systems across vast territories. The construction required sophisticated communication systems, resource sharing, and coordinated labor that demonstrates social organization capabilities that rival later civilizations. Most remarkably, the network was built by hunter-gatherer communities before agriculture was established, completely overturning assumptions about the relationship between farming and civilization. The sites show evidence of specialized functions within the network. Some served as regional centers, others as local gathering places, and some as specialized ceremonial or educational facilities. The coordination required to build and maintain this network demonstrates sophisticated social organization, communication systems, and shared cultural traditions that operated across geographical and cultural boundaries. This temple network proves that 11,000 years ago, prehistoric communities possessed organizational capabilities and social systems that enabled coordinated monumental construction across territorial scales comparable to later empires. 74. Massive timber circles. At Poverty Point, enormous circular arrangements of wooden posts ranging from 82 to 206 feet in diameter represent sophisticated ceremonial architecture that existed alongside the famous earthwork ridges. These timber circles required sophisticated planning, precision construction, and organizational capabilities that challenge assumptions about hunter-gatherer monumental architecture. The post arrangements follow precise geometric patterns with mathematical relationships that suggest advanced understanding of geometry, astronomy, and architectural principles. Archaeological evidence reveals the circles were rebuilt multiple times with identical dimensions and orientations, indicating maintained cultural traditions and technical knowledge across generations. The construction required coordinating harvests of hundreds of massive trees, transporting them across difficult terrain, and erecting them with precision that demanded sophisticated engineering knowledge. Most remarkably, the timber circles show evidence of astronomical alignments that suggest they served as observatories or ceremonial centers oriented to celestial events. The scale and precision of construction rival Stonehenge and other famous megalithic monuments, while predating many European stone circles by thousands of years. The circles were integrated with earthwork ridges and other monumental features to create a comprehensive ceremonial complex covering hundreds of acres. These massive timber circles prove that North American hunter-gatherer communities possessed architectural knowledge, organizational skills, and ceremonial sophistication that created monumental architecture rivaling any contemporary civilization worldwide. 75. Advanced water management in China. 5,900 years ago, Chinese communities developed sophisticated irrigation and water conservancy systems that demonstrate advanced engineering capabilities millennia before similar European developments. These water management systems represent transition from passive flood defense to proactive resource control and environmental engineering. The construction involved sophisticated understanding of hydrology, soil engineering, and landscape modification that enabled communities to control water resources across vast territories. Archaeological evidence reveals complex networks of canals, reservoirs, and water control structures that required coordinated planning and construction across multiple communities. The engineering demonstrated understanding of water flow, soil stability, and construction techniques that enabled reliable water management across seasonal variations and environmental challenges. Most remarkably, the water management systems were maintained and expanded across centuries, indicating institutional knowledge and organizational capabilities that preserved engineering expertise across generations. The systems enabled agricultural intensification, population growth, and settlement stability that supported complex social organization and cultural development. The water management technology included innovations in dam construction, canal engineering, and water distribution that wouldn't be matched in Europe for thousands of years. These advanced water management systems prove that Chinese communities possessed engineering knowledge and organizational capabilities that created sophisticated environmental control systems that enabled complex social and economic development. 76 semi-permanent megasites. Some Mesolithic sites were occupied continuously for 200 to 500 years, demonstrating early experiments with sedentism before agriculture and sophisticated long-term planning that challenges nomadic hunter-gatherer stereotypes. These semi-permanent settlements required resource management, territorial control, and social organization that enabled sustained occupation without agricultural food production. The sites show evidence of architectural development, technological innovation, and cultural continuity that indicates sophisticated community planning and institutional memory. Archaeological evidence reveals communities that maintain specialized activity areas, organized waste management, and structured social spaces across centuries of continuous occupation. The long-term occupation required sustainable resource management that prevented environmental degradation while supporting stable populations across multiple generations. Most remarkably, these sites show evidence of planned abandonment and seasonal reoccupation that suggests sophisticated understanding of carrying capacity and environmental cycles. The communities developed technologies and social systems that enabled sustained settlement while maintaining flexibility for environmental adaptation and resource management. The sites represent successful experiments with sedentary life that develop solutions to challenges that would later affect early agricultural communities. These semi-permanent megasites prove that the transition to sedentary life began thousands of years before agriculture, and that hunter-gatherer communities possessed social organization and planning capabilities that enabled sophisticated settlement systems. 77. The Nadiruck Massacre. 10,000 years ago at Nadiruck, Kenya, archaeologists discovered preserved evidence of brutal conflict with 27 individuals showing blunt force trauma, stone points embedded in skulls, and bound hands. This discovery proves that organized warfare existed among hunter-gatherer communities much earlier than previously thought. The violence wasn't random, but systematic, with evidence of coordinated attacks, specific targeting, and post-mortem treatment that suggests organized military action. Archaeological analysis reveals sophisticated weapons designed specifically for human combat rather than hunting, indicating specialized warfare technology and tactics. The evidence includes obsidian blade wounds, crushing trauma from specialized weapons, and positioning that suggests ambush tactics and coordinated group assault. Most remarkably, some victims show evidence of being bound before death, indicating prisoner capture and possibly ritualized execution that suggests complex warfare protocols. The preservation enables detailed analysis of ancient violence that reveals warfare techniques, weapon technology, and conflict patterns that provide insights into prehistoric social organization. The massacre site shows evidence of multiple attackers using coordinated tactics against victims who were apparently surprised and overwhelmed by superior numbers and organization. This organized violence proves that hunter-gatherer societies possessed military capabilities warfare strategies, and conflict technologies that demonstrate sophisticated social organization and territorial competition. 78. Continental death rituals. At Offnet Cave in Bavaria, archaeologists discovered 34 human heads arranged in ritual deposits with evidence of violent death, suggesting either large-scale conflict or complex mortuary practices involving head veneration. The head collection represents sophisticated mortuary practices that required specialized knowledge of preservation, preparation, and ritual arrangement. Archaeological analysis reveals the heads were processed using consistent techniques that suggest established cultural traditions and specialized knowledge of anatomical preparation. The arrangement patterns indicate specific ritual protocols and possibly symbolic meanings that demonstrate complex spiritual beliefs and ceremonial practices. The evidence suggests the heads were collected over extended periods and curated for ongoing ritual use rather than deposited immediately after death. Most remarkably, the heads show evidence of violent death, but also careful post-mortem treatment that suggests complex relationships between warfare and spiritual practices. The ritual deposits were maintained and possibly renewed across multiple episodes, indicating ongoing cultural practices and institutional memory that preserved ritual traditions. The head curation required understanding of preservation techniques, anatomical knowledge, and ritual protocols that demonstrate sophisticated mortuary technology and spiritual sophistication. These continental death rituals prove that Mesolithic communities possessed complex spiritual beliefs, sophisticated mortuary practices, and ritual technologies that demonstrate advanced cultural development and religious sophistication. 79. Headless burial mysteries. Across Neolithic sites worldwide, archaeologists have discovered numerous headless skeletons with skulls carefully removed for ritual use, suggesting complex multi-stage burial practices that could span decades. These headless burials represent sophisticated mortuary systems that involved multiple ceremonial stages and long-term ritual relationships with deceased individuals. The skull removal was performed using precise techniques that suggest specialized knowledge of anatomy and established cultural protocols for post-mortem processing. Archaeological evidence indicates the skulls were removed for ongoing ritual use in community spiritual practices rather than simple burial preparation. The headless bodies show evidence of careful burial preparation and grave good placement that indicates continued reverence and spiritual significance despite skull removal. Most remarkably, some skulls appear to have been removed years after initial burial, suggesting ongoing relationships with deceased community members and complex temporal dimensions to mortuary practices. The practices were maintained across different cultures and geographic regions, indicating widespread spiritual beliefs about death, ancestors, and ongoing community relationships with deceased individuals. The skull removal and curation required specialized tools, anatomical knowledge, and preservation techniques that demonstrate sophisticated mortuary technology and spiritual sophistication. These headless burial mysteries prove that Neolithic communities possessed complex spiritual beliefs about death and ancestors that created sophisticated mortuary practices spanning extended time periods. Sich multicelestial alignments. At Newgrange, architectural alignments demonstrate knowledge of a 19-year Metonic lunar cycle, Venus's 8-year cycle, and Sirius rising, indicating comprehensive astronomical understanding that rivaled later civilizations. This multi-celestial knowledge required generations of careful observation, mathematical calculation, and record-keeping that demonstrates sophisticated scientific traditions. The monument incorporates multiple astronomical cycles into its architecture, creating a complex observational instrument that tracked various celestial phenomena simultaneously. Archaeological analysis reveals the builders understood the relationship between different celestial cycles and incorporated this knowledge into unified architectural systems. The astronomical knowledge required understanding of precession, planetary motions, and stellar movements that wouldn't be formally documented until classical antiquity. Most remarkably, The alignments suggest the builders could predict astronomical events and possibly use the monument for calendrical calculations and seasonal planning. The integration of multiple astronomical cycles into single architectural systems demonstrates mathematical sophistication and observational capabilities that rival modern astronomical understanding. The knowledge preservation across construction periods indicates educational systems and institutional memory that maintained complex astronomical information across generations. These multi-celestial alignments prove that Neolithic peoples possessed astronomical knowledge, mathematical capabilities, and scientific understanding that created sophisticated observational instruments for tracking complex celestial phenomena. 81. Astronomical alignments at Lipinski Vir. The location and house orientations at Lipinski Vir suggest deliberate celestial observations that may represent Europe's first systematic time measurement system based on astronomical events. The settlement's precise positioning relative to natural landmarks and celestial observations demonstrates sophisticated understanding of astronomical phenomena and their practical applications. Archaeological analysis reveals house orientations that align with seasonal sun positions, stellar rising points, and possibly lunar cycles, creating integrated astronomical observation systems. The community appears to have used celestial observations for practical purposes, including seasonal planning, agricultural timing, and possibly ceremonial scheduling. The astronomical knowledge was integrated into daily life through architectural design that enabled routine observation and tracking of celestial cycles. Most remarkably, the system appears to have been maintained across multiple generations of settlement reconstruction, indicating preservation of astronomical knowledge and observational traditions. The integration of astronomy into settlement planning demonstrates sophisticated understanding of the relationship between celestial phenomena and practical community needs. The observational capabilities suggest the community possessed mathematical knowledge and record-keeping systems that enabled systematic astronomical observation and practical application. This systematic time measurement system proves that Mesolithic European communities possessed astronomical knowledge and practical applications that created sophisticated calendrical and seasonal planning systems based on celestial observations. 82. Stone circles as prehistoric observatories. Thousands of megalithic monuments across northwestern Europe are precisely aligned with solar and lunar positions, indicating shared astronomical knowledge networks spanning vast distances and cultural boundaries. This represents humanity's earliest international scientific collaboration involving standardized astronomical knowledge and observational techniques. The alignments demonstrate sophisticated understanding of celestial mechanics, seasonal variations, and astronomical cycles that require generations of careful observation and mathematical calculation. Archaeological evidence reveals the monuments were designed as functional observatories with specific architectural features that enhanced astronomical observation and measurement capabilities. The shared alignment principles across different cultures indicate either common astronomical traditions or active knowledge exchange that maintains scientific standards across vast territories. Most remarkably, the precision of alignments rivals modern astronomical instruments while being achieved using Stone Age technology and observational techniques. The monuments show evidence of continuous use and periodic realignment that suggests ongoing astronomical observation and maintenance of observational accuracy across centuries. The international scope of alignment systems indicates communication networks and scientific collaboration that enabled coordination of astronomical knowledge across multiple cultures and regions. These prehistoric observatories prove that Neolithic communities possessed astronomical knowledge, mathematical capabilities, and international scientific collaboration that created sophisticated observational networks spanning entire continents. 83. Neanderthal Deep Cave Mastery. The Brunniqual cave structures required sophisticated planning, lighting systems, and organizational skills to build complex formations 336 meters underground in complete darkness. This underground construction represents unprecedented technical achievement that demonstrates advanced problem-solving and engineering capabilities. The project required sophisticated lighting technology that could provide reliable illumination for extended periods during construction in dangerous underground environments. Archaeological evidence reveals the Neanderthals navigated treacherous cave passages, transported heavy materials through narrow spaces, and maintained lighting systems throughout complex construction projects. The construction required understanding of structural engineering, material properties, and architectural principles that enabled stable construction in challenging underground conditions. Most remarkably, the purpose of these underground structures remains mysterious, suggesting Neanderthals possessed cultural motivations and spiritual beliefs that drove enormous construction efforts. The project required coordinated group effort, specialized roles, and organized planning that demonstrates sophisticated social organization and leadership capabilities. The technical achievement required generations of accumulated knowledge about underground construction, lighting technology, and structural engineering that indicates established cultural traditions. This deep cave mastery proves that Neanderthals possessed technical capabilities, social organization, and cultural sophistication that enabled complex underground construction projects for unknown but apparently important purposes. 84. 40,000-year-old pigment workshops. Evidence of paint production and sophisticated color mixing at multiple European sites demonstrates advanced understanding of mineral properties and artistic applications that supported complex artistic traditions. These pigment workshops represent humanity's earliest chemical laboratories, where sophisticated color preparation and artistic material production took place. Archaeological evidence reveals specialized grinding equipment, mixing vessels, and storage systems that enabled large-scale pigment production for artistic and possibly ceremonial purposes. The workshops produced consistent colors using complex preparation techniques that required understanding of mineral chemistry, heat treatment, and binding agent technology. The color mixing demonstrates advanced knowledge of pigment properties, color theory, and artistic techniques that enabled sophisticated artistic expression and cultural practices. Most remarkably, the workshops were maintained across generations with evidence of technological development and production improvement that indicates specialized knowledge transmission. The pigment production required understanding of mineral sources, extraction techniques, and processing methods that demonstrate sophisticated knowledge of materials science and chemical technology. The workshop organization suggests specialized roles, quality control, and production standards that enabled reliable artistic material supply for complex cultural and artistic activities. These pigment workshops prove that 40,000 years ago, human communities possessed chemical knowledge, artistic sophistication, and production capabilities that supported complex cultural practices and artistic achievement. 85. Prehistoric dentistry beyond expectations. Evidence of intentional tooth removal, decoration, and modification for ritual or aesthetic purposes across multiple continents and time periods demonstrates sophisticated understanding of dental anatomy and cultural sophistication. These dental modifications required advanced knowledge of oral anatomy, pain management, and healing techniques that indicate sophisticated medical capabilities and cultural practices. Archaeological evidence reveals specialized tools designed specifically for dental modification, including drilling equipment, cutting instruments, and possibly anesthetic materials. The modifications were performed with precision that suggests specialized training, established techniques, and cultural traditions that maintain dental modification practices across generations. The procedures required understanding of dental anatomy, nerve pathways, and healing processes that demonstrate advanced medical knowledge and technical capabilities. Most remarkably, the modifications were often decorative rather than medical, indicating cultural values and aesthetic preferences that motivated complex and risky dental procedures. The evidence spans multiple continents and cultures, suggesting either independent development of dental modification techniques or cultural exchange that spread dental technology across vast distances. The dental modifications required post-procedure care and infection prevention that demonstrates understanding of medical principles and healing techniques. This prehistoric dentistry proves that ancient communities possessed medical knowledge, technical capabilities, and cultural sophistication that enabled complex dental procedures for medical, ritual, and aesthetic purposes. 86. Advanced textile production. Clay impressions and rare preserved fragments show sophisticated weaving, dyeing, and clothing production techniques that existed far earlier than previously documented in archaeological records. These textile technologies represent complex manufacturing systems that required specialized knowledge of fiber processing, weaving techniques, and dyeing chemistry. Archaeological evidence reveals sophisticated loom technology, spinning equipment, and fabric processing tools that enabled production of complex textiles with advanced decorative techniques. The textile production required understanding of fiber properties, processing techniques, and manufacturing methods that demonstrate sophisticated technological knowledge and cultural sophistication. The dyeing techniques show advanced knowledge of color chemistry, plant processing, and fabric treatment that enabled production of colorful and durable textiles. Most remarkably, the textile fragments show evidence of complex weaving patterns, decorative techniques, and possibly symbolic designs that indicate artistic sophistication and cultural meaning. The production systems required specialized roles, organized labor, and quality control that enabled large-scale textile production for clothing, decoration, and possibly trade purposes. The textile technology required understanding of raw material sources, processing techniques, and manufacturing methods that demonstrate sophisticated technological development and cultural advancement. This advanced textile production proves that prehistoric communities possessed manufacturing knowledge, artistic capabilities, and technological sophistication that enabled complex textile production for practical and cultural purposes. 87. Sophisticated hunting strategies. Evidence of coordinated large mammal hunting required complex planning, communication, and understanding of animal behavior patterns that demonstrate advanced cognitive capabilities and social organization. These hunting strategies represent sophisticated understanding of animal psychology, group coordination, and tactical planning that enabled successful hunting of dangerous megafauna. Archaeological evidence reveals specialized hunting equipment, coordinated hunting sites, and evidence of strategic planning that enabled groups to successfully hunt animals much larger than individual humans. The hunting required understanding of animal behavior, migration patterns, and environmental factors that enabled prediction and manipulation of animal movements for successful hunting. The coordination required sophisticated communication systems, leadership structures, and tactical planning that demonstrate advanced social organization and cognitive capabilities. Most remarkably, the hunting strategies were successful enough to support large human populations and enable expansion into new environments through reliable food procurement. The techniques required understanding of weapon effectiveness, group tactics, and risk management that enabled hunting of dangerous animals while minimizing human casualties. The hunting success required preservation and sharing of knowledge across generations that maintained effective hunting traditions and technological development. These sophisticated hunting strategies prove that prehistoric communities possessed tactical knowledge, social organization, and cognitive capabilities that enabled successful exploitation of challenging food resources through coordinated group efforts. 88. Early evidence of counting systems. Notched bones and artifacts suggest numerical recording systems that predate written mathematics by tens of thousands of years, indicating sophisticated cognitive capabilities for abstract mathematical thinking. These counting systems represent humanity's earliest attempts at mathematical record-keeping and numerical abstraction that enabled complex cognitive development and cultural advancement. Archaeological evidence reveals systematic notching patterns, consistent marking techniques, and possibly standardized counting methods that suggest established mathematical traditions. The notching systems show evidence of base number systems, counting sequences, and possibly arithmetic operations that demonstrate sophisticated mathematical understanding. The artifacts suggest these counting systems were used for practical purposes, including resource management, time measurement, and possibly trade calculations. Most remarkably, the counting systems appear across different cultures and time periods, suggesting either independent development of mathematical thinking or cultural transmission of numerical concepts. The mathematical development required abstract thinking, symbolic representation, and cognitive capabilities that enabled humans to manipulate numerical concepts mentally. The counting systems represent early stages of mathematical development that would eventually lead to written mathematics, complex calculations, and advanced mathematical systems. These early counting systems prove that mathematical thinking and numerical abstraction developed much earlier than written mathematics and represent fundamental cognitive capabilities that distinguish human intellectual development. 89. Prehistoric brewing and fermentation. Evidence shows intentional alcohol production and ritualistic consumption, requiring sophisticated understanding of fermentation processes that enabled complex cultural and spiritual practices. These brewing technologies represent humanity's earliest chemical engineering that enabled production of alcoholic beverages for cultural, spiritual, and possibly nutritional purposes. Archaeological evidence reveals specialized brewing equipment, fermentation vessels, and storage systems that enabled reliable alcohol production using available plant materials. The brewing required understanding of fermentation chemistry, timing, and environmental control that demonstrates sophisticated knowledge of biological processes and chemical transformation. The alcohol production was integrated into cultural and spiritual practices that suggest important social and religious significance beyond simple recreational consumption. Most remarkably, the brewing technologies were maintained across generations with evidence of technological improvement and production refinement that indicates specialized knowledge development. The fermentation knowledge required understanding of microbiological processes, environmental control, and chemical transformation that represents advanced scientific understanding. The brewing systems required specialized tools, organized production, and quality control that enabled reliable alcohol production for cultural and spiritual purposes. This prehistoric brewing proves that ancient communities possessed chemical knowledge, technological capabilities, and cultural sophistication that enabled complex fermentation processes for social and spiritual purposes. 90. Advanced fire control technology. Sophisticated hearth designs, controlled burning techniques, and fire starting methods maximized efficiency and minimized smoke production through advanced understanding of combustion principles. These fire technologies represent sophisticated understanding of combustion chemistry, heat management, and environmental control that enabled efficient energy production and environmental modification. Archaeological evidence reveals specialized hearth construction, ventilation systems, and fuel management techniques that optimize fire performance for specific purposes. The fire control required understanding of airflow, fuel properties, and combustion chemistry that enabled reliable fire production and heat management in various environmental conditions. The techniques enabled environmental modification through controlled burning that managed landscapes, enhanced food resources, and possibly modified local climates. Most remarkably, the fire technologies were adapted for specific purposes including cooking, heating, tool production, and landscape management through sophisticated understanding of fire behavior. The fire control systems required specialized knowledge, organized fuel collection, and safety protocols that enabled safe and effective fire use in various contexts. The technology enabled human expansion into challenging environments through reliable heat production, food processing, and tool manufacturing that supported settlement in hostile climates. This advanced fire control proves that prehistoric communities possess sophisticated understanding of combustion principles and energy management that enabled efficient environmental control and technological development. 91. Prehistoric mining operations. Evidence of systematic extraction of high-quality stone, mineral, and metal resources using sophisticated tunneling and extraction techniques demonstrates advanced understanding of geology and engineering. These mining operations represent humanity's earliest industrial resource extraction that enabled access to high-quality materials for tool production and trade. Archaeological evidence reveals sophisticated mining techniques, including tunnel construction, structural support systems, and organized extraction methods that enabled deep resource extraction. The mining required understanding of geology, structural engineering, and safety protocols that enabled systematic resource extraction without causing dangerous collapses. The operations required specialized tools, organized labor, and quality control that enabled efficient extraction and processing of valuable materials. Most remarkably, the mining operations were maintained across generations with evidence of technological improvement and expansion that indicates sophisticated industrial development. The mining techniques required understanding of geological processes, material properties, and extraction methods that demonstrates advanced scientific knowledge and technological capabilities. The operations enabled access to high-quality materials that supported sophisticated tool production, artistic development, and possibly long-distance trade networks. These prehistoric mining operations prove that ancient communities possessed geological knowledge, engineering capabilities, and industrial organization that enabled systematic resource extraction and technological development. 92. Complex musical traditions. Beyond individual instruments, evidence suggests musical ensembles, acoustic considerations in cave selection, and sound-based ritual practices that extend prehistoric musical capabilities beyond simple tool production. These musical traditions represent sophisticated understanding of acoustics, sound production, and cultural expression that enabled complex artistic and spiritual practices. Archaeological evidence reveals intentional selection of caves with optimal acoustic properties, suggesting understanding of sound resonance and acoustic enhancement for musical performance. The musical practices appear to have involved multiple participants, coordinated performance, and possibly ceremonial or educational functions that demonstrate sophisticated cultural organization. The acoustic considerations suggest understanding of sound physics, reverberation, and acoustic enhancement that enabled optimization of musical performance through environmental selection. Most remarkably, the musical traditions were integrated with artistic and spiritual practices, creating multimedia cultural experiences that combined visual art, music, and ceremony. The musical development required cultural transmission, educational systems, and standardized techniques that maintained musical traditions across generations and communities. The evidence suggests musical performance was central to community life, spiritual practices, and cultural expression rather than peripheral entertainment activities. These complex musical traditions prove that prehistoric communities possessed artistic sophistication, acoustic knowledge, and cultural organization that enabled sophisticated musical performance and spiritual practices. 93. Sophisticated food preservation. Smoking, drying, fermentation, and storage techniques enabled survival through harsh seasons and long-distance travel by creating nutritious, long-lasting food supplies that supported complex mobility and settlement patterns. These food preservation technologies represent sophisticated understanding of food chemistry, biological processes, and environmental control that enabled reliable nutrition across seasonal variations. Archaeological evidence reveals specialized preservation equipment, storage facilities, and processing techniques that enabled communities to maintain nutritious food supplies across extended periods. The preservation methods required understanding of dehydration, fermentation chemistry, and environmental control that prevented spoilage and maintained nutritional value. The techniques enabled communities to survive harsh environmental periods, support long-distance travel, and maintain stable populations through unreliable food resources. Most remarkably, the preservation systems were sophisticated enough to support specialized activities including long-distance trade, seasonal migration, and complex social gatherings. The food technology required specialized knowledge, organized labor, and quality control that enabled reliable food security across challenging environmental conditions. The preservation techniques enabled dietary diversity, nutritional security, and food surplus accumulation that supported population growth and cultural development. These sophisticated food preservation systems prove that prehistoric communities possessed nutritional knowledge, technological capabilities, and resource management skills that enabled complex subsistence strategies and social organization. 94. Advanced geometric knowledge. Precise geometric patterns in art and construction suggest sophisticated mathematical understanding that predated formal geometry by thousands of years, demonstrating advanced cognitive capabilities for spatial reasoning. These geometric achievements represent sophisticated understanding of mathematical principles, spatial relationships, and proportional systems that enabled complex artistic and architectural development. Archaeological evidence reveals consistent geometric patterns, mathematical relationships, and proportional systems that suggest standardized mathematical knowledge and educational traditions. The geometric knowledge was applied to practical purposes, including architectural planning, artistic composition, and possibly astronomical calculation that demonstrate sophisticated mathematical applications. The patterns show understanding of symmetry, proportion, and geometric relationships that require abstract mathematical thinking and systematic knowledge development. Most remarkably, the geometric principles were maintained across different contexts and cultures, suggesting either shared mathematical traditions or independent development of similar mathematical concepts. The mathematical knowledge enabled sophisticated artistic expression, architectural planning, and technological development that relied on precise geometric calculations and spatial understanding. The geometric sophistication required educational systems, knowledge preservation, and cultural transmission that maintained mathematical traditions across generations. This advanced geometric knowledge proves that prehistoric communities possessed mathematical capabilities, abstract thinking, and systematic knowledge that enabled sophisticated artistic and technological achievements based on geometric principles. 95. Prehistoric weather prediction. Evidence of sophisticated understanding of weather patterns, seasonal changes, and climatic phenomena enabled accurate prediction for survival and planning purposes that supported successful environmental adaptation. These weather prediction capabilities represent sophisticated understanding of meteorology, environmental patterns, and climatic systems that enabled reliable planning and environmental adaptation. Archaeological evidence suggests communities could predict seasonal changes, weather patterns, and environmental conditions with accuracy that enabled successful resource management and survival planning. The weather knowledge was integrated into practical activities including hunting, gathering, migration, and resource management that required accurate environmental prediction for successful outcomes. The prediction capabilities required understanding of atmospheric phenomena, seasonal patterns, and environmental indicators that enabled accurate forecasting using observational techniques. Most remarkably, the weather knowledge was maintained across generations through cultural transmission that preserved accurate environmental knowledge and prediction capabilities. The meteorological understanding enabled communities to optimize resource collection, avoid dangerous weather, and plan activities around environmental conditions for maximum success and safety. The weather prediction required systematic observation, pattern recognition, and knowledge accumulation that demonstrates sophisticated scientific thinking and environmental understanding. This prehistoric weather prediction proves that ancient communities possessed environmental knowledge, observational capabilities, and scientific understanding that enabled accurate meteorological prediction and successful environmental adaptation. 96. Complex language systems. Archaeological evidence suggests sophisticated communication systems, including possible early writing, symbolic notation, and complex oral traditions that enabled advanced cultural transmission and social organization. These language systems represent sophisticated cognitive capabilities for symbolic thinking, communication, and cultural transmission that enabled complex social organization and knowledge preservation. Archaeological evidence reveals symbolic notation systems, communication technologies, and cultural transmission methods that suggest advanced linguistic capabilities and educational systems. The language development enabled complex social coordination, knowledge preservation, and cultural transmission that supported sophisticated community organization and technological development. The communication systems required abstract thinking, symbolic representation, and systematic knowledge that demonstrates advanced cognitive capabilities and cultural sophistication. Most remarkably, the language systems were sophisticated enough to maintain complex cultural traditions, technical knowledge, and social organization across generations and geographic distances. The linguistic capabilities enabled communities to coordinate complex activities, preserve specialized knowledge, and maintain cultural traditions through systematic communication and educational systems. The language development required cognitive sophistication, cultural transmission, and educational systems that maintained linguistic traditions and communication capabilities across communities. These complex language systems prove that prehistoric communities possessed cognitive capabilities, communication skills, and cultural sophistication that enabled advanced social organization and knowledge transmission through sophisticated linguistic systems. 97. Advanced metallurgy beginnings. Late Stone Age experimentation with metalworking and alloy creation showed advanced understanding of material properties that laid foundations for subsequent technological development. These metallurgical experiments represent humanity's earliest materials science that enabled understanding of metal properties, heat treatment, and alloy creation for technological advancement. Archaeological evidence reveals specialized equipment, experimental techniques, and systematic approaches to metalworking that demonstrate sophisticated understanding of materials science and technological development. The metallurgy required understanding of heat treatment, material properties, and chemical transformation that enabled manipulation of metal materials for practical and artistic purposes. The experimentation enabled development of new technologies, improved tool production, and enhanced artistic capabilities through systematic exploration of material possibilities. Most remarkably, the metallurgical knowledge was developed through systematic experimentation and knowledge accumulation that demonstrates scientific approaches to technological development. The metal working required specialized tools, organized labor, and quality control that enabled reliable production and technological advancement through materials innovation. The metallurgical development enabled creation of superior tools, artistic objects, and technological innovations that supported cultural and technological advancement. These advanced metallurgy beginnings prove that late Stone Age communities possessed materials science knowledge, experimental capabilities, and technological innovation that established foundations for subsequent metallurgical development and technological advancement. 98. Prehistoric psychology understanding. Evidence shows treatment of mental illness and sophisticated approaches to community mental health that demonstrate advanced understanding of psychological principles and therapeutic techniques. These psychological capabilities represent sophisticated understanding of human behavior, mental health, and therapeutic intervention that enabled effective treatment of psychological conditions and community well-being. Archaeological evidence suggests communities possessed knowledge of psychological disorders, treatment methods, and preventive approaches that enabled effective mental health management and community support. The psychological understanding enabled communities to identify, treat, and support individuals with mental health challenges through systematic approaches and cultural practices. The treatment methods required understanding of human psychology, therapeutic techniques, and social support systems that demonstrate sophisticated knowledge of mental health principles. Most remarkably, the psychological knowledge was integrated into community practices, spiritual systems, and social organization that created supportive environments for mental health and well-being. The mental health approaches required specialized knowledge, cultural transmission, and community organization that enabled effective psychological support and therapeutic intervention. The psychological sophistication enabled communities to maintain social stability, support vulnerable individuals, and promote mental well-being through systematic understanding and therapeutic practices. This prehistoric psychology understanding proves that ancient communities possessed psychological knowledge, therapeutic capabilities, and social organization that enabled effective mental health treatment and community well-being. 99. Complex territorial systems. Evidence of sophisticated land use agreements, territorial boundaries, and resource management across different groups and regions demonstrates advanced social organization and diplomatic capabilities. These territorial systems represent sophisticated understanding of resource management, social organization, and diplomatic negotiation that enabled peaceful coexistence and coordinated resource use. Archaeological evidence reveals territorial boundaries, resource sharing agreements, and coordinated land use that suggest complex social systems and diplomatic relationships between different communities. The territorial management required understanding of resource distribution, environmental capacity, and social negotiation that enabled sustainable resource use and conflict prevention. The systems enabled multiple communities to coexist, share resources, and maintain territorial integrity through sophisticated social agreements and diplomatic relationships. Most remarkably, the territorial systems were maintained across generations with evidence of treaty renewal, boundary adjustment, and conflict resolution that indicates sophisticated diplomatic capabilities. The resource management required understanding of environmental capacity, sustainable use, and social coordination that enabled long-term resource security and environmental protection. The territorial sophistication enabled complex social organization, peaceful coexistence, and coordinated resource management through systematic diplomatic and social systems. These complex territorial systems prove that prehistoric communities possessed diplomatic capabilities, social organization, and resource management skills that enabled sophisticated territorial management and peaceful inter-community relationships. 100. Advanced botanical knowledge. Sophisticated understanding of plant properties, medicinal applications, and agricultural experimentation predated formal farming by enabling systematic plant management and medical applications. This botanical knowledge represents sophisticated understanding of plant biology, ecological relationships, and practical applications that enabled effective resource management and medical treatment. Archaeological evidence reveals systematic plant management, medicinal applications, and possibly agricultural experimentation that demonstrates advanced botanical knowledge and practical applications. The plant knowledge enabled communities to optimize wild resource collection, develop effective medicines, and possibly experiment with plant cultivation for enhanced food security. The botanical understanding required systematic observation, experimental testing, and knowledge accumulation that demonstrates scientific approaches to plant management and utilization. Most remarkably, the plant knowledge was extensive enough to support complex medical systems, food security, and possibly early agricultural experimentation through sophisticated understanding of plant properties. The botanical applications required specialized knowledge, cultural transmission, and systematic approaches that enabled effective plant management and medical treatment. The plant expertise enabled communities to maximize environmental resources, maintain health, and possibly develop agricultural systems through sophisticated botanical knowledge and applications. This advanced botanical knowledge proves that prehistoric communities possessed scientific understanding, practical capabilities, and systematic knowledge that enabled sophisticated plant management and medical applications. 101. Prehistoric timekeeping systems. Complex calendrical knowledge and astronomical cycle understanding enabled sophisticated timekeeping systems for practical and ritual purposes that supported advanced social organization and cultural practices. These timekeeping systems represent sophisticated understanding of astronomical cycles, mathematical calculation, and practical applications that enabled accurate temporal measurement and cultural organization. Archaeological evidence reveals astronomical knowledge, calendrical systems, and temporal organization that suggest systematic time measurement and cultural applications for scheduling and coordination. The timekeeping required understanding of astronomical cycles, mathematical relationships, and practical applications that enabled accurate temporal measurement and social coordination. The calendrical knowledge enabled communities to coordinate seasonal activities, schedule cultural events, and maintain temporal organization through systematic astronomical observation and calculation. Most remarkably, the timekeeping systems were sophisticated enough to enable long-term planning, cultural coordination, and possibly historical record-keeping through accurate temporal measurement. The temporal organization required specialized knowledge, cultural transmission, and systematic approaches that maintained accurate timekeeping and cultural coordination across generations. The calendrical sophistication enabled complex social organization, cultural planning, and temporal coordination through systematic understanding of astronomical cycles and mathematical applications. These prehistoric timekeeping systems prove that ancient communities possessed astronomical knowledge, mathematical capabilities, and organizational skills that enabled sophisticated temporal measurement and cultural coordination. 102. Advanced human anatomy knowledge. Evidence shows sophisticated understanding of human physiology and anatomy that enabled complex medical procedures requiring detailed biological knowledge and surgical capabilities. This anatomical knowledge represents sophisticated understanding of human biology, physiological systems, and medical applications that enabled effective medical treatment and surgical intervention. Archaeological evidence reveals medical procedures, anatomical understanding, and surgical capabilities that demonstrate advanced knowledge of human biology and medical applications. The anatomical knowledge enabled communities to perform complex medical procedures, understand physiological systems, and develop effective treatments for various medical conditions. The medical understanding required systematic observation, experimental testing, and knowledge accumulation that demonstrates scientific approaches to medical knowledge and therapeutic development. Most remarkably, the anatomical knowledge was detailed enough to enable complex surgical procedures, medical treatments, and physiological understanding that rivals modern medical knowledge. The medical applications required specialized knowledge, cultural transmission, and systematic approaches that enabled effective medical treatment and surgical capabilities. The anatomical sophistication enabled communities to maintain health, treat injuries, and perform complex medical procedures through sophisticated understanding of human biology and medical principles. This advanced human anatomy knowledge proves that prehistoric communities possessed medical understanding, scientific capabilities, and biological knowledge that enabled sophisticated medical treatment and surgical procedures. 103. Complex social contracts. Evidence of sophisticated legal and social systems, conflict resolution, and community governance structures predated known civilizations and demonstrated advanced social organization capabilities. These social contracts represent sophisticated understanding of social organization, legal principles, and governance systems that enabled effective community management and conflict resolution. Archaeological evidence reveals social organization, legal systems, and governance structures that suggest complex social contracts and community management systems. The social systems enabled communities to maintain order, resolve conflicts, and coordinate activities through systematic governance and legal principles that supported social stability. The governance structures required understanding of social dynamics, legal principles, and organizational systems that enabled effective community management and social coordination. Most remarkably, the social contract were sophisticated enough to enable complex community organization, inter-group relationships, and conflict resolution through systematic legal and social systems. The legal systems required specialized knowledge, cultural transmission, and systematic approaches that maintained social order and community governance across generations. The social sophistication enabled communities to coordinate complex activities, resolve disputes, and maintain social stability through systematic governance and legal principles. These complex social contracts prove that prehistoric communities possessed organizational capabilities, legal understanding, and social sophistication that enabled advanced community governance and social coordination. 104. Prehistoric environmental engineering. Landscape modification, controlled burning, and ecosystem management demonstrated sophisticated understanding of environmental systems that enabled systematic environmental control and resource optimization. This environmental engineering represents sophisticated understanding of ecological systems, environmental modification, and resource management that enabled systematic landscape control and optimization. Archaeological evidence reveals landscape modification, ecosystem management, and environmental control that demonstrates advanced understanding of ecological principles and environmental applications. The environmental engineering enabled communities to optimize resource availability, modify local environments, and enhance ecological productivity through systematic environmental management. The ecological understanding required systematic observation, experimental testing, and knowledge accumulation that demonstrates scientific approaches to environmental management and ecosystem modification. Most remarkably, the environmental engineering was sophisticated enough to enable large-scale landscape modification, ecosystem enhancement, and long-term environmental management through systematic ecological understanding. The environmental applications required specialized knowledge, cultural transmission, and systematic approaches that enabled effective environmental management and ecological optimization. The ecological sophistication enabled communities to enhance resource availability, modify environments, and maintain ecological balance through sophisticated understanding of environmental systems and management principles. This prehistoric environmental engineering proves that ancient communities possessed ecological knowledge, environmental capabilities, and systematic understanding that enabled sophisticated landscape modification and ecosystem management. 105. Advanced communication networks. Evidence of information exchange systems spanning vast distances enabled coordination of activities across multiple communities and regions through sophisticated communication and organizational systems. These communication networks represent sophisticated understanding of information transmission, social coordination, and organizational systems that enabled large-scale coordination and cultural exchange. Archaeological evidence reveals communication systems, information exchange, and coordination capabilities that suggest sophisticated networks spanning vast distances and multiple communities. The communication networks enabled communities to coordinate activities, share knowledge, and maintain cultural connections across geographic barriers through systematic information transmission. The networking systems required understanding of communication principles, organizational systems, and coordination methods that enabled effective large-scale social organization. Most remarkably, the communication networks were sophisticated enough to enable continental-scale coordination, cultural exchange, and information transmission through systematic communication and organizational systems. The information systems required specialized knowledge, cultural transmission, and systematic approaches that maintained communication capabilities and coordination across vast distances. The communication sophistication enabled communities to coordinate complex activities, share innovations, and maintain cultural connections through sophisticated understanding of information transmission and social organization. These advanced communication networks prove that prehistoric communities possessed organizational capabilities, communication skills, and systematic understanding that enabled sophisticated large-scale coordination and cultural exchange. The revolutionary truth about our ancestors. These 105 shocking facts paint a picture that completely contradicts everything we've been told about our primitive ancestors. Far from being simple hunter-gatherers struggling to survive, Stone Age peoples were sophisticated innovators whose achievements often surpassed those of later civilizations. They performed brain surgery with modern success rates, created art that wouldn't be matched until the Renaissance, built astronomical computers more precise than anything produced for thousands of years, and developed sustainable technologies that modern societies are still trying to achieve. The evidence is overwhelming and undeniable. Our ancestors possessed medical knowledge that enabled complex surgery, pharmaceutical medicine, and dental procedures millennia before modern medicine. Artistic capabilities that created masterpieces requiring techniques supposedly not developed until the Renaissance. Engineering skills that built monuments with precision matching modern instruments. Scientific understanding that enabled astronomical observation, mathematical calculation, and environmental management. Social organization that supported massive construction projects, international trade networks, and sophisticated governance systems. Perhaps most shocking of all, these achievements weren't isolated incidents, but represent systematic patterns of sophistication spanning millions of years and multiple continents. The time has come to abandon primitive stereotypes and recognize the truth. Our Stone Age ancestors were brilliant, innovative, and capable people whose achievements laid the foundations for all subsequent human development. They weren't learning to be human. They already were human in every sense that matters. The only thing primitive about them was the simple tools archaeologists have been finding. Their minds, their culture, and their capabilities were every bit as sophisticated as our own. The Stone Age wasn't the beginning of human intelligence. It was its first great flowering.